Good evening. Washington County Quorum Court is called to session. We got a full house, so we're going to jump right in. We're going to go ahead and ask J.P. Briney to lead us in the prayer and pledge.
Yes, let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for a wonderful opportunity to be here tonight to do the business of the kingdom. Thank you so much for every person that came with an interest to have their voice heard or their presence known. And Lord, I pray that you would be with us as a group here tonight to have wisdom, respect, and a servant's heart to do the right thing for the citizens of this county. And Lord, I pray that you would also enable us to have minds that are alert and attentive to the things that are said and discussed. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, J.P. Briney. All right, we're going to go ahead and have the adoption of the agenda. Have a motion?
Moved. Go ahead.
A motion by J.P. Dennis.
No,
your comment?
I'd like to amend the agenda.
Okay.
I'd like for us, if we would, consider putting the Weddington Mine to the front.
Second.
And the reason being, it would free up a lot of seats, I believe, for other people to sit down if we take care of it first. Thank you.
All right, so we'll do that after. Can we do that after item 6? You got a second? Is that a second?
I was the second. I just had another thing to offer. Am I?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just felt like, given the number of people here that are interested in budget and millage, that perhaps we should move those items in addition to the mine issue after 6 and put sort of our routine matters at the end.
Whoa, we got one motion on the floor that's pending. It's been seconded. It's got to be done before.
All right, let's go with the first.
He accepted that as, I think he was accepting that as a friendly amendment.
I'd accept that as friendly. That way we could just vote one time and be quicker about it.
Okay, so we have a motion to adopt the agenda to move item.
The
What is
Weddington
that?
Mine,
What number is that?
number 29.
Item 29 and then 27, 28, and 29. To move them up front. 29 and then 27 and 28. That's a motion to
Yes.
amend the agenda, move items 29, then 27 and 28. We have a second. JP Madison. Is that a question, JP Ussery?
Yes, sir. Could we read these by title only?
That's coming in.
Okay.
All right, so we got a motion, we got a second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right. All right. So now we got the adoption of the agenda. I have a motion to adopt the amended agenda. Give me two of those. So moved. I need a second. Moved by JP Madison, seconded by JP Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Preliminary vote motions.
I move that we read the ordinances by title only.
Okay. It's been moved that we move. It's been moved by JP Madison, seconded by JP Dennis. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
No.
All right. Okay, citizen comments. Citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to come forward and just share some of their thoughts with the county. It is a 15-minute window, and now that we've moved the budget up where we'll be talking about the millage, you might want to, if your call, you want to wait till we get to the millage discussion if you have millage public comments, or you can go ahead and use that time now. I'm just giving you an opportunity that we will have discussion about the millage if you wanted to discuss the millage, and we can wait at that particular time. But you have 15 minutes right now, and we'll have the county attorney watch the time. 3 minutes, total of 15 minutes total. State your name.
My name is Laura Villegas, and I live in Springdale.
Welcome, Miss Laura.
Okay, I would like to comment on the proposed jail expansion. The last time I was at one of these sessions, they mentioned one of the reasons for the necessity of that was that our population was predicted to increase, and that automatically meant that there would be an increase in people needing to go to jail. I question that. I think that we ought to look at that very carefully, because just because the population increases does not mean that there will be an increase in jail population. Perhaps we should put some of that money instead into looking into preventing so many people having to go to jail. A lot of people are there simply because they're poor and can't pay for the bond or pay a fine, and I think that needs to be looked at. I think that other things can be looked at in order to decrease the jail population. And my second comment is that at the moment, it's not very humane. I realize that people are in prison, but when you go to try to communicate with them, the system doesn't work very well, and it's also quite expensive. If the person in jail wants to communicate with anybody outside, they have to buy a package. They can't just pay for a minute of a phone call, and it's quite expensive, much more expensive than any of us would pay for a phone call or for a visit. So I think that needs to be looked at too. I think that it's totally discriminatory against poor people, and that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Laura. Public comments. Public comment, okay.
Good evening. My name is Abraham Carvajal.
Welcome, Mr. Abraham.
I live on Mount Comfort Road in Fayetteville. I would like to comment regarding item 29 on the agenda. I will be communing to the west side of Fayetteville, specifically the Weddington Woods subdivision, more frequently now that my relatives have moved there. Through casual neighbor conversations, I have come to learn that this area is being adversely impacted by the recent development of Weddington Mine. I am unsure if the item 29 on the agenda is requesting an approval for development. If so, I would urge or please that it be tabled so that more conversations can be brought up for this. In conclusion, I would like to read a public comment from a previous previous meeting, which to me is kind of relative to the Weddington Mine issue. I am not affected by this dirt pit. I do want to go on record opposing the expansion of the dirt pit. My main point is that we need some real zoning in this county. At nighttime, my neighborhood is brighter than the historic district of Fayetteville. We're in a residential area. People live here. Most people come out and live in rural areas for a certain lifestyle. We expect cattle, ticks, deer, and chicken houses, not dirt pits. The reason this is sort of a sore spot for me is that a few years ago, there was a gentleman that was going to put a red dirt pit 50 feet from my property line. My life would have been ruined. That is all I own. The idea that one person or company can come in and impact an entire neighborhood with their project is rather unfair. The neighborhood was here before the dirt pit. My attitude is that we need some real zoning for a place where people can live in a place for strip mines and businesses in the city. In the city, there are rules for where bars and strip clubs will be. We don't put them next to schools, for example. I think there are places we need in the future for businesses as the county grows. We need some real zoning to make sense, not just place projects wherever because a person can buy some property. That's my point. I like to think that residents have a right to live without breathing dust and diesel fumes. I am not against business. There just needs to be a place for them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham. Public comments.
Hi, I'm Denny DeGraff. I'm reading a letter for Nancy Stokes. We're both residents of Weddington Woods, and it's also regarding item 29. Dear Quorum Court, we should not have to be here tonight. This should have been settled in 2014 when the Quorum Court decided the road to enter Harmon Road. In 2014, the decision of the court was a denial for the county road's standard line of sight to a curve and for safety issues. It is a hazard because of no response time from a curb on a steep hill. This hill used to have a truck warning sign at the top, which is now missing. It looks like whoever is building this road is making a joke of the court's decision. I thought I was going to see our first accident at the Harmon truck entrance last week. 2 trucks trying to get up a steep hill in the mud and chat. They were lined up but still on the roadway, waiting for the truck in front to make it up the hill. The car in front of me did everything but drive off into the creek to avoid the back end of the second truck, which was on the roadway. By the time I got my cell out to photograph, they had both pulled off of Harmon. It's still a safety issue, and the land has not changed. Everyone in Weddington Woods and that live on Harmon Road have kids that ride the school bus on Harmon need to be aware of this bold defiance of the Quorum Court's decision. We need to show that money does not sell the safety of our kids on those buses or the driver on Harmon Road. This guy is trying to defy the ruling of that time by saying it is a private drive. Fine, if he drives his car up the hill, a whole different ballgame for bringing dump trucks in and out or making it a county road so he can drive his trucks in and out every 10 minutes and stalling trucks on the roadway trying to get into the drive. Yes, he is spending a lot of money on this road already, but he knew going in that we would fight this again. He is not wanting just a private drive. See attached A. If he has allowed this road, it is against the court's decision. You have to take action against him. If you allow this road to continue more than a private drive only, we must appeal to the circuit court and hire if required. We will also start a GoFundMe page to assist with legal fees of our fight and to file a lawsuit against the county, others involved in the decision. We will support any person involved in any accident at the intersection and give them a copy of the past ruling. In conclusion, Harmon Road has not changed since 2014. We still have several school buses that come down that hill full of kids. There is an existing road at the top of the hill already that they can come out on Highway 16, Rich's Road, if needed. The land in the line of sight has not changed to meet the county road standards to allow a road to enter Harmon that close to a curve. We have done the math, and a truck would be attempting to climb either the road or Harmon Hill every 10 minutes. There are 205 people that live on the Harmon Road and 258 homes in Weddington Woods that use Harmon. Please stand up to these people that are making the court's decision a joke. Please stand on your past decisions. And here are some things to evidence to back up.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Denny. Thank you, Ms. Denny. Public comments.
Request a show of hands for those in agreement of the speaker whenever they're through speaking, as opposed to the applause.
Can we use? Thank you. Open comments. Public comments.
Judge, they can't hear very well.
Public comments.
If they can turn
please
up the mic.
make sure the mic is on and speak into the mic.
Yeah, get as close to the mic
I'll be
as
brief.
possible.
Talking to the mic.
I don't know as much about county government.
What's your name?
My name is Abel Tomlinson.
Okay.
I don't know as much about county government as I should, but I've heard that they're going to increase spending for and taxes for jails, or potentially build another new jail. I just want to ask everyone, aren't we supposed to be the land of the free? We have the largest prison population in the world. It kind of makes that a joke. And we supposedly have soldiers fighting, spending trillions of dollars, bombing the Middle East for freedom, supposedly. And we call ourselves the land of the free. It's really a joke. It's an embarrassment. And I think it's ridiculous that we should increase taxes on people in Fayetteville when the price of rent is going up, the price of housing is going up, people on minimum wage can barely afford rent. We have homeless people, and they're tearing down their tents. Inhumane. It's inhumane. And if we want to really be serious about not increasing taxes and not increasing spending on jails, building new jails, we need to really look at the drug war and locking people up for nonviolent crimes, especially marijuana, which is way less dangerous than alcohol. A lot of medical benefits. We passed medical marijuana in Arkansas, and they still haven't got it. It was a corrupt law compared to the other one. Also, we need to talk about sentencing reform. We need to have way less harsh sentences for people. Look at Europe. They don't put people in prison for the times that we put people in prison for. It's inhumane. We're locking humans in cages. These aren't numbers. We treat people as numbers. It's not right. They're people. And also the issue of bail. Poor people can't make bail, so they stay in jail. That's ridiculous. It's a racket. And I don't understand all the corruption. It just seems like the higher you go up in government, the more corrupt it is. Obviously, we can see our federal government is extremely corrupt. But all I want to say is, please stop locking people up. And everybody here, lobby your state government, your state legislators. Tell them to have sentencing reform, drug war law reform, and bail reform. Stop locking people up. These are our brothers and sisters. And it's not just punishing the adults, it's punishing the children. All these people we're locking in jail have children who lose their parents. They lose their mommies and daddies. They become economically impoverished. It's inhumane. We need to start treating people like humans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abel. Hands. Public comments. Public comments. Good evening.
Hello. My name's Josephine Geiger. I live out in Weddington Woods on top of the mountain. It's a ridiculous of having the dirt coming down off of Harmon Road. There's buses that come and hit that road, and people riding bicycles up and down that road. That'd be too many dang accidents. We don't need the dirt road from the dirt farm on Harmon Road at all. It's bad enough. People in and out there. People that leave early go to work. There's accidents. No, we don't need that dirt farm road out there on Harmon Road at all.
Thank you, Ms. Josephine. Public comments. Public comments.
Good evening. My name is Solomon Birchfield. My comment is also on the jail expansion. I want to urge you to not consider the jail expansion until some probing questions are answered. One question is how many, is the real question that our jail is too small or that our incarceration level is too high? Right? So what percentage of the people in our jail are people who have mental health disabilities and are chronically homeless? I work in that field, and I think the estimate is very high, a significant number of people. There are case studies around the country where people spend money for individuals that are chronically homeless and mentally disabled and justice system involved, and they provide supportive housing to those individuals. So they subsidize housing and provide social workers, and those individuals see a 40 to 50% reduction in justice system involvement. That would lower our incarceration rate. Secondly, our jail participates in the 287G, voluntarily participates in the 287G program, which inhumanely separates people not based on their risk to society, not a safety risk, but because of the color of their skin and because of their immigration documentation status. And that's not moral. And if we voluntarily discontinued participation in that, we would lower our incarceration level. And lastly, we could reform our bail and our monitoring system. And this is also something we can find in other cities, other counties, other states who have done this really effectively. Because it is true, both conservatives and liberals agree that our current bail system is expensive, inefficient, and unfair to people, especially poor people. Someone who commits a minor offense and is not a risk to public safety but has money simply bails out. And people who, in the same circumstance but lacking money, sit in a jail cell for days and weeks and weeks and weeks waiting for a court trial. Meanwhile, they're separated from their job and they're separated from their family. And we not only could have a more humane system, but a more fair system. New Jersey is a good example of a place that has done this, and they saw a 20% reduction in their pretrial jail incarceration levels. So there are ways to address the overcrowding at the jail that is not spending tens of millions of dollars on expanding the number of beds, but rather addressing proactively supportive housing for people with mental health issues, voluntarily discontinuing our participation in 287G, and reforming our bail and monitoring system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Birchfield. Public comments, 30 seconds left. Public comments, anybody left? Public comments? And we'll again.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Come fast.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you, Quorum Court JP members. I have listened to these comments here, and I can't believe the absurdity of some of the ridiculous statements that have been made so far. People are put in jail because they're doing harm to society. That's why they're in jail, and yes, we need to keep them there. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Sonny. We will have comments later on in the different parts of the meeting. We're going to go ahead and go to the approval of the minutes. JP.
I make a motion that we extend the time for public comments. There's a lot of people here tonight. We should hear from them.
Second.
All right, we got a motion to move for extension.
15 minutes.
Another 15? Yes. So we got a motion to move, extend public comments for another 15 minutes. We have a second?
Second.
A second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, continue. Public comments, 15 minutes starts.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My name is Robert Stafford. I'm a citizen of Fayetteville, which is also part of Washington County, and so I'm a citizen of Washington County as well. By the way, our mayor was treated in your last meeting. I feel that maybe you guys don't remember that Fayetteville is actually part of Washington County, and so you represent us all. Ann Harbison, I'm in your district. I do not agree with the way you voted on the in the budget committee for the increase charging the cities for the jail. Did you want?
That's right.
Oh, okay. That's right. Well, I would love to talk to you about that. Number one, we do incarcerate too many people. And I feel like one of the things you guys are trying to do is charge the cities and the municipalities for the inability of the court system to process people in a reasonable time. So if someone's sitting in jail for 30 days because you're backed up in the courts, that's a you problem. That's something you guys need to fix. And you need to get people due process and get them to the court. I mean, a lot of this is for minor crimes. And you need to get those people through the justice system. And we don't need to be paying. I mean, if we pay this, that's like, what's your incentive to fix it? None. Your incentive is to make it worse. Because, I mean, more you have people in jail, then you get to build your new jail. Then you get to just charge us more and more money. And now, not only are you guys planning to raise taxes on us and raise the millage to the maximum because you ill-advisedly lowered it too much the last time, when you should have just kept it the same, and we probably would all be fine here. But the cities are probably going to have to, the municipalities are going to have to raise their taxes. Because Fayetteville, and the numbers aren't in because the numbers are everywhere, but they're talking about $2 to $2.5 million a year in increased fees that they're going to have to pay to the Washington County Jail. Well, how are they going to get that money? They're going to raise their taxes as well. You're raising our taxes to the maximum you're allowed, and then the cities are going to have no choice but to raise their taxes if both these things go through. So I'm against both of these, and you know, just remember, you work for the people of Washington County, and you need to know your numbers. You need to balance your budgets. You need to figure out ways to fix this without just, oh, well, let's dump it on the people. And that's basically the gist of what I had to say today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford. Public comments?
Hi, guys. Joe Maynard. Long time no see.
Mr. Maynard.
In regards to the jail, I think that it would be worth the fight to charge the users the rate. The taxpayers of the county should not necessarily pay for the other parts of the state or the city. Now, Fayetteville, with its budget that's 2 times higher than Springdale with the same amount of people, they're building bike trails to nowhere. You know, I got no sympathy for those people. Let them pay their fair share, or let them quit arresting people. If they want to live with criminals, that's fine. But I would want to second the comment I heard earlier about separating people and hardships and all that. Well, don't break the law. Simple as that. You don't want to be separated from your children? Don't break the law. Now, as far as I heard a comment, and I think you're going to take up this road situation with a mine, some kind of mine. This is a public road. And as soon as we start dictating what businesses can and can't use that road, you're going down a very, very dangerous path. It's a public road. These people don't like that, but when we don't want them using my road because I don't like it, then they'll have a problem with that. Either it's a public road or it's not a public road. And we shouldn't dictate who uses it. That's picking winners and losers. Now, back to the jail or the budget in general, the taxpayer should dictate how much we choose to spend on the county matters. It's your job to divide that up with the priorities that you feel is best. And I know Sheriff Helder does a good job. Maybe he needs to go back and look at it again. But you guys need to tell him what we have to spend in that particular area. Anyway, good to see you guys again.
Thank you, Mr. Maynard. Public comments.
Hello.
Hi.
My concern.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Nikisha Snell,
Okay.
and I am from Fayetteville in Ward 4. And I just want to echo the previous concerns that have been expressed about the jail expansion. And if it has not already been done so, if there was a way to outline for the public specifically what the jail expansion looks like, exactly what is being expanded, what do you all feel, what services within the jail do you all feel there is an increase in need for? Because I do feel like there's a lack of imagination in regards to some of the people who are currently being arrested for petty crimes, and like Solomon mentioned earlier, some of the folks that are being arrested as a result of the 287G policy or as a result of simply being homeless. if there was a way to be a little bit more creative in our imagination as far as coming up with alternative options for those folks. We're not really speaking of people who are committing actual crimes. I don't think anyone is thinking of like criminals who are committing actual crimes and thinking of letting them not spend time in jail. I think we're more concerned about just crimes that are specifically related to people experiencing poverty and crimes specifically related to an increase of folks of color being targeted without actually committing an actual crime. So that's my main concern is just, I just want us to be a little bit more creative in creating alternative options other than jail. If jail can not be the first option that we go to for these situations, that would be great.
Thank you, Ms. Nikisha.
Yep.
Public comments.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Evelyn Rios Stafford. I'm a resident of Fayetteville, and I am the new vice chair of the Fayetteville Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. And I came here to speak today basically about the unplanned and unexpected proposed millage increase of 28% and how it could affect affordable housing in our region. Last Thursday, the Budget Committee took a surprise vote to significantly raise property taxes to the maximum allowed by state law, 5 mills, which is more than double what was cut last year. A rise in property taxes could translate into a rise in rents across the county. We know that many small landlords often pass along costs like the millages to their tenants. This is a troubling development for an area already facing a growing shortage of affordable low-income housing. We already have a hard enough time at the FHA getting small landlords to sign up for the Section 8 program, which provides subsidized housing for working families. Small landlords' margins are small, and many need assurance, with any tenant, Section 8 or not, that they won't be in financial straits due to unexpected costs. A large unexpected millage increase is only going to make it harder to bring Section 8 landlords on board. And it's not just the property taxes themselves. It's the expenses for regular repairs and maintenance. When the millage goes up, the cost of calling a plumber goes up because the plumbers have to pay the millage too. When the millage goes up, the cost of calling an electrician goes up because the electricians have to pay the millage too. Arkansas is one of the only states without an implied warrant of habitability. There's nothing to prevent landlords from letting a unit become uninhabitable, and we risk more of that if some small landlords can barely make their property taxes. Think carefully about what you're doing here. Make sure you've done everything possible to rein in spending before you approve this millage. Did the Budget Committee look carefully at alternative solutions first, cutting costs, renegotiating contracts, eliminating wasteful spending before raising this millage? Was any kind of operational audit done before making this move? Look into purchases and the grant approval process. Look into negotiating savings. There are many options to look at. For example, it's my understanding the road department is sitting on a $2 million plus reserve that they're not being asked to spend all of next year. Why are taxes being raised when some departments have multi-million-dollar surpluses? The Housing Authority has a very limited budget. We can't raise taxes when we overspend. We have to stay tightly within our budgets. We have to come up with creative solutions to do more with less. I feel that the county also needs to look at those kinds of creative solutions as well before raising the millage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stafford. Public comments?
Todd Crane, Fayetteville. My comments should be pretty simple, but I know for a fact that not everything that could be done has been done before looking at raising this millage. I know for a fact you do not have the exact numbers on what it takes to run the jail, on what can be done to optimize the jail, on programs working with other counties that could be looked at because the work has not been done. Whether or not the jail actually needs to be expanded at some time in the next 10 years, probably so. Whether or not we actually need to raise a millage to do it, probably not. The cities all need to pay their actual costs plus. I know there was some discussion last week or earlier this week about actually charging for the daily rate, we should be charging more than the daily rate. The jail deteriorates. It's not just operational costs. You also need depreciation and future growth. So whether it's $64 a day, which nobody can actually say for sure is the real number. Whenever I asked the sheriff when I was, preparing to run for office, he had an idea. That's what he's been told, but he didn't know. He didn't know what the actual cost, daily cost of housing a prisoner was. So if he doesn't know the actual cost, how can any of you know what the actual cost is? How can we know what we need to be charging other cities and towns whenever they decide to bring a prisoner here? If we actually charge the daily cost plus, that will discourage some of the cities and towns from bringing people into the jail who could be deferred on other programs. There are other programs like victims funds that can be used, where the actual damages for nonviolent offenders can be used to compensate the victim as well as go into a fund to help operate the jail. You have not looked at that in completion, so you cannot or should not morally increase this tax until you have looked at the alternatives, actually done studies, had the sheriff involved. You tell him how much he has to spend outside of what's allocated on specific funds. We tell as a court, the sheriff's office, what their budget is. And so whenever that happens, we need to understand what the real costs are. He needs to prove to us what's going on, where the real costs are. And I don't think that's been done. And that's the reason that I'm against the tax increase. And we're not even talking about it, but in earlier meetings it was talked about a sales tax increase as well, specifically for expanding and operating the jail. So we're talking about a millage increase right now to the general fund, so that can actually be used for other items. So everybody here, we're talking about it in terms of the jail, but that can be used for anything if it goes to the general fund. So everybody who's up here tonight, I don't think the work has been done by the sheriff's office. I don't think it's been done by the budget committee in forcing the sheriff to show us these items. And so that's why I ask you to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. We have a minute and a half left, minute and 16. Good evening.
Hi.
Hey.
My name is Ann Britton, and I'm a resident here in Washington County. And I came up here, I'm a medically disabled person. I'm also a widow. I cannot afford property tax increases. I was disabled serving my country and serving the state. And I think you all should look at every option you have. And I know for a fact that Judge Wood has some ideas that you all haven't listened to. And I've served on a committee like this. And I did it well for 8 years. And I am appalled that I would be in front of a government committee that has not looked at all the options that are available to them. And they are going to put it on the backs of the people. I don't care for what reason. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ann.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, that's our public comments. Thank you. We're going to item number 6, approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Got a motion to approve the minutes. Second. We got a second to approve the minutes. All in favor? Those opposed? Okay. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and move to item number 29. I think that's what we said in the adoption of the agenda. No. What number?
29.
29. That's correct. So that would be J.P. Devins and J.P. Dennis.
Good evening. Thank you to the citizens who came out. This item was put on the agenda because the citizens in my district saw some concerns with an issue that had previously been denied by this court. Over a period of time, a significant amount of acreage has been disturbed in this area. And so it has caused a lot of questions with the citizens, and several of them have come to present to our courts what they've experienced. So.
All right, so we'll.
I think it's very important that our folks have a chance to be able to discuss it and give their opinions about things, and this is the format in which we have to do that. And so when it came up, I was approached about it, and I asked, and Alicia had already asked, that it be put on tonight's agenda for them to discuss. So really want to turn it over to the people for them to be able to discuss it.
I guess this question is directed to the planning board in that we voted on this previously with another landowner, and we denied access to Harmon Road. We told him at that time that he could make a road through another mining area and use a road that was already being used by other mining companies. So I don't understand, since this is already, because on Harmon Road where you come out, there's a very steep hill that has to be climbed to get up to 16. And we thought that was very dangerous at the time that we denied that. It's also, they don't have a clear view because there's a curve, and the picture I saw where the road might be coming out would be dangerous. So, I mean, it's not like that this person couldn't put a road somewhere else, because at that time there was another mining company, and we felt that a road, if those people wanted to mine that red dirt, which we're not against, because in that area there are several red dirt mines, and we need red dirt for fill for all the building that's going on. But I don't understand, these people are saying we've got trucks coming out on that road now. I mean, I don't know why.
Are we going to go to the JP Madison?
I guess I just want to know what's transpired since our ruling. I'm not sure. Has the property sold? Has it? Can somebody give me an update on it? Okay. Thank you.
As one of the sponsors, I would ask that you hold your applause and hold your comments to yourself unless you're addressing the court by coming and being recognized, please. It'll be a long, long night if you don't, so please do that.
Coming into the court, this happened, the ruling happened prior to my presence on the court. 2 months ago or so, I got a phone call from a concerned citizen stating that the property had indeed changed hands. The previous owner, to which the ruling, that owned it whenever the ruling was made, had sold the property. And the new owner had taken over the property. And based on what had happened, I in turn reached out to the planning department, to Ms. Patty, to get all of the previous documentation. I then started making some visits because I had to go see it myself, and I wanted to do my due diligence and make sure that that there was an issue. And not to say that I didn't trust the citizens, but sometimes whenever we have neighbors, sometimes people are just not being neighborly, and so I wanted to go and see for myself. On one occasion, I went out, and there was a little bit of amount of disturbance to the area of concern. Within a week, though, there was a great amount of disturbance. The concerns of the people were increased by some conversations that I was not at or don't have any documentation for proof. But I did go visit multiple people who had multiple concerns. Because I physically wasn't in attendance at those meetings, I invited them to approach the Quorum Court and to share their concerns. I also did meet with the county judge and the county attorney and other people, visit with Mr. Nathan on the phone many times. I am in agreement that a person who owns private property can do what they want to with that property. But I must admit, that when I have a group of people who have paid taxes in Washington County for 40 to 50 years and someone moves in, that doesn't make that person's pursuit of happiness any greater than the others that are out there. And as the court well knows, in the past, I have abstained from certain votes when I couldn't make a decision because I wanted to agree. It is my, as a public servant, it is my duty to serve all the constituents in my district. And I take that very seriously. And so because of that, I went out multiple times, made multiple visits, visited multiple families. I even took a new running JP to be with me, just so I wouldn't be by myself. And I saw something that I thought the court should know about. And so I invited some of the citizens from my district to the area, to the court, to share with you the pictures that they've seen and the things that they've seen and witnessed. And I think they have pictures and evidence to show. So, thank you.
J.P. Harbison and J.P. Madison.
I have a question for our attorney on when we rule on one of these CUPs. Does it stay with the property? I mean, even though that property is sold, would that restriction that we made, would that not stay with the property?
Not on a CUP. To be real technically, even if the same owner came back in, they can always reapply for a CUP for the same thing. They're allowed to make changes. So there's no, in a court of law, we'd call it an issue of res judicata where you couldn't go back in and relitigate, but these are permits. And so we often ask applicants to modify their permits, and that's how they get their permits. So for someone to be denied one, they do have the opportunity to come back in, ask for a permit, make changes, and attempt to get that. So no, it doesn't stick to the land.
J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. It's a little out of protocol, but may I ask Ms. Evans a question first?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Would you tell me what you meant by disturbing and what exactly is going on out there for us?
Sorry. Basically, what I did is after I went out and took a visit and looked, I contacted, this is a long story, sorry. I contacted a neighboring property owner who decided to drive up from Central Arkansas to meet with me, to allow me on his property to get a better view. I also visited with some of the other neighbors on the other side to take more pictures. And it's my understanding that if a citizen is going to change more than an acreage of property, that there should be certain permits. And so because of that, that made me look into it. And with what I visualized, I did not get a surveyor to measure it because it was not my property. But by my personal view, there was more than 1 to 2 acres disturbed, and I'm not sure that all the permits had been filed for. I did contact Mr. Nathan on a couple of occasions to ask about permits if they'd been filed, and none have been filed, nor had any other CUP come across our desks for approval. And so that's, in essence, why.
Okay. By disturbed, was it like a farmer had plowed a field and somebody's preparing to plant corn, or what?
No, by disturbed meaning it was sort of excavated a little bit. The topsoil has been removed, and just a lot of clearing has happened.
Thanks. So topsoil is being removed from the property and trucked away from the property?
I can't say that because I did not see that, but yes, it is gone.
Then, thank you for clarifying that. I spent some time reading the county ordinances on zoning, and the whole county is zoned agricultural or single family, meaning a single family living in a dwelling. And the agricultural definitions include livestock and livestock products, planting and cultivating crops and timber, silviculture and aquaculture. Nowhere in that definition of the county's area-wide zoning is there anything that speaks to mining. And this sounds to me, according to the dictionary, extraction of valuable minerals or other geological material. It sounds to me like there's a mining operation going on out there. And in fact, I understand that the new owner did approach the planning office about getting an application for a conditional use permit, and for whatever reason, abandoned that. I doubt that the planning office turned him away, but clearly he knew he needed to get a permit. So is anybody from the planning staff here?
Yes.
I'm somewhat curious if the gentleman just said he'd come back later, or if planning discouraged him. I mean, they might have said, this has already failed once, but as our attorney just said, that certainly doesn't prevent another person from changing things a little bit and reapplying. So I'm curious why, because it seems to me there's a very clear violation of the county's zoning ordinance happening out there. I mean, it's mining.
Thank you, Judge. I do have a question, if I may ask Justice Devins, on an email that I received. Was it not one of the property owners that was adjacent to this area who got his trees knocked down? Just all of that, those were his trees? Is this the property? Okay.
Because I'm not exactly sure about where the trees were removed, but there was a question about a property line potentially being bumped. Again, the citizens are here and they may need to share because they are physically involved. I am basically a visitor to this area. I did go to the assessor's office and different places to get, maps and such to make sure that I was in the right area, but it would be up to the citizens to show you specifics. I think that they are here and they need to have the opportunity to share.
Because we get a lot of emails, so.
There we go. Maybe mine's the problem. Well, we're discussing it, and I realize that, but we don't have anything on the floor. So I would like to move that all mining should be stopped on the Weddington mine until all proper CUPs and approvals are given by the Quorum Court and by the Planning Commission.
Second.
Second by J.P. Devins.
Mike, Judge.
Motion on the floor by J.P. Dennis, second by J.P. Devins. Is that going to be all in favor? Well,
no. You're making a motion. You're not really doing anything other than putting some words out there. And so I just want to point that out. You can vote on this, but all it is kind of like your recommendation to the person that owns the land to stop doing what they're doing.
We need to revise a resolution.
So, right as it stands right now, to stop this, let's just say, first off, I'll say that the planning department, the chief, the road department's been out. To our knowledge, there's not been any dirt extracted. There is a road that's being built. We've met with several people and have asked specifically, have you seen dump trucks bringing dirt out? No, but we know that's what's going to happen. So if it was, let's say that something was operating illegally, you would need a court of law to tell them, to issue an injunction to say you're to cease operations. You don't have that ability other than to fine the applicant if they are operating something illegally, whatever fine you have put in place.
So I can't make a motion, but I can make a resolution. Is that what you're saying? And are you saying that all the approvals have been given? Have all the approvals been made and given by the Planning Commission?
I don't know that anything's gone through the Planning Commission.
J.P. Harrison and J.P. Madison.
May I ask Nathan a question?
Come on, Nathan.
has the owner of this property come in to request a CUP of some kind?
My name's Nathan Crouch, Planning Director. The owner of the property has come in to have a discussion, but he hasn't brought in a submittal and requested CUP review and approval.
Okay, thank you.
I might suggest that the motion should be that we should direct the county attorney to send a cease and desist letter to the owner of the property to stop all activity in violation of county ordinance until appropriate permits are obtained.
Second.
I think we have the authority to do that. I was going to suggest that just to help procedurally, I think it's important that you all make the motion and the second. So.
I actually had those words written down here, and I forgot to read them. So I don't know how you got a copy of what I had, but that's exactly what I meant to say. So no need of saying it again, but I accept that. Thank you. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Yes.
I'm sorry, JP Ussery.
Yeah, thank you. You know, as everybody knows here, and that's why a large number of you are here is because we are looking at, we would like to raise the millage and to the full 5 mills. And there's been a lot of misinformation out there, just so that everybody's clear on that this would add about $22 to every $100,000 of house you have. And this coming year, if you have the Homestead Act, you're getting $350 already off your taxes. Well, that's going to move to $400 at least, and maybe $450.
JP Ussery, let some of the big folks get out. That's all right. Go ahead, JP Ussery. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. One of the things that and being chairman of the Budget Committee, I've probably done not a good job on this, of saying what we're doing and what we do on a regular basis to make sure we're being as financially responsible as we can. This last year, I asked each one of the department heads to reduce their budget 3%. I think there were 2 or 3 small departments that didn't. Everybody else did a good job of reducing their budget. The overall reductions to the budget were $1.1 million this year, where people went in and found out how to make things more efficient. Whenever I went to them, I talked to each one of them about that they need to use the technology to maximize the use of that, and what we tried to do is come alongside them and help show them ways that they could be more efficient. A couple of things that, for example, as soon as we started the budget process, I realized that there were 55 computers that needed to be replaced. And so what we did is that we moved all the computers to the IT department, let them mass purchase. By doing that, we saved $64,000. We had an occurrence that the motor went out on our crusher at Morrow. And in the past, we would have called some company and had them come in and repair it. Instead, we had our electrician go out there, and he was able to repair it, and that saved us a number of thousands of dollars. We built a bridge this year, and we designed that bridge with things that we had on our county property that we've had for quite some time, and we're able to utilize that stuff without costing the taxpayer a penny. And there have been a number of other things that have happened like that. I asked Sheriff Helder if he wouldn't mind just sharing like 3 or 4 things that they're doing at the jail or on the enforcement side. I don't know if is he here somewhere?
I'm here.
Okay, could you come up and share those with us real quick? But we have tried as hard as we can to make sure that we're doing all we can to be fiscally responsible.
Sheriff, good evening.
Now we're on. Bill, what am I sharing?
The things that you're doing to be more efficient, the savings that you've given to the county this year.
Well, a lot of our efficiency ratings are through patrol, scanning of existing documents where we were paying an off-site location for all of our jail records and whatnot. We've turned that into an in-house operation to save, I think it was $35,000 or $40,000 a year. We've got our own IT group, so it's we task him with doing a lot of these things. We have moved to e-crash and e-ticketing within our cars to cut back on paper filing and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think. There was one thing that I wanted to share with you. And some of these things have been over a period of time. But when we're talking about technology, we upgraded our mobile computing in the cars, allows the deputies to access real-time information for the patrol vehicles, keeps them in the field more, reduces the load on dispatch for sure. I talked about e-crash and e-site, and we've worked in conjunction with county IT to develop our own FOI tracking system, which is saving us about $15,000 per year. All that work's been done, and that savings will be realized in 2019. We've previously had to pay an outside firm to provide that service. We've eliminated all outside scanning. We saved about $10,000 more. This has been a process that didn't just happen this year, but our switch over from the Crown Vics to the Tahoes, that was done a few years ago, but we're just now really getting into the full service of the Tahoes, and our justification for that was service and longevity. And the cars are lasting longer. It's costing us less to operate them on these county roads, on the dirt roads that we travel every day. We've also converted an in-house employee to a service technician so that we can do a lot of our own service work on site instead of paying the hourly fees in the outside world to do the menial stuff. I know that there was paper reduction, substantially reduced paperwork at intake. We now do the scanning in-house. Jail mail, which we just implemented. Mail is now scanned off-site and emailed to the detainees. This reduces manpower in sorting, inspecting, and delivering of mail. reduces contraband, which is a big thing for us. A lot of contraband comes into the jail through mail. So we basically ceased those kind of letters other than through the attorneys, which has been great. And I think that's about what I had down for this past year.
Thank you very much. There's one other thing that I failed to mention, that is that that Chief Gales put the road department on 4-day weeks, to 10 hours a day, 4-day weeks. And what that did for us, that gave us...
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Mr. Chair, has permission.
Thank you very much. Question I had, I was thinking that the county was doing something for the mentally ill.
The CSUs it's in process, and county judge might be able to speak better to that, but I know that we're on track to get our CSS open after the first of the year. On our end, on the law enforcement end, we've conducted a ton of training in preparation for the opening. So that will assist us in helping people that truly don't need to be in jail.
So we're going to have a facility for them?
It's going to be in the courthouse that we vacated. That's where it's going to be.
So we do.
I think you already know what you're asking me. I can see this smirk on your face. You're just trying to draw me out.
Thank you for.
Yeah, it's on track. And Judge, you can certainly speak.
Well, I just heard the public comments, and we can't respond back to the public, so we have to respond to you. And I thought the public might like to hear that we had already taken care of some of that, to the tune of close to $1 million. So to say that we don't do it, we've already done it. And so, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sheriff. J.P. Usley.
So, but there are a number of things that we've done. I mean, that's just a very small part of what we've done this year and what everybody has done, and I'm extremely grateful for that. And what we try to do as desperately as we could was to see if we could make it through this budget process without having to come to the people. But once we got to the budget and we looked at the budget, there's just not any way we can continue where we are. And nobody hates to pay taxes probably more than me. But for the amount that the burden that it's going to put on people, the county services, we're not going to go bankrupt. We're not going to have to start cutting services. Some of the services that you may not realize, if you're a lawyer, there's e-filing now, which has saved you a ton of time. You can access files you've never been able to access before. If you are a realtor, you can go online, and y'all do that every single day. And that's all because of the things that the county has done. That's a service provided by the county. If you're a banker, the other day I was talking to them about a loan. They pulled up the property right there on the computer, and that's because of the county. That's the county stuff that we've done that as a service to the county. And the other thing that we need to be cognizant of is that I've got a note right here that I would like to read from our prosecutor that he sent me because we're looking at funding. He asked for 3 people that he desperately needs, and I said, can you get by with just 1 person, because it looks like that's all we're going to be able to afford. And this is what he said. He said that the problem is that what we're doing now, we're getting by. I'm in need of help. Each year it gets harder and harder to get by with what we have. In 2013, we filed 2,147 new felony cases. This year we are on track to file over 4,000. That's an increase of 90%. In that time, we have added a case coordinator positions as well as a new victim assistance, but the number of legal assistants has remained the same. So essentially, we have the same number of people responsible for twice the work. That's why we are having to look outside for things like interviews, transcripts. It's also leading to much more stressful work environment for them. They get incredibly frustrated, for lack of a better term, at the fact that they are not able to keep up regardless of how hard they work. They could work elsewhere and have a lot less work and probably make more money, but they don't, which indicates to me that they stay because they love what they do and they know they make a difference. And so that's just one of the many reasons that we're here tonight. And because if the prosecutor's office is that busy, That means that the circuit clerk is busy because all those things have to be filed. That means that the defending attorney has to be that busy. And, of course, that means that Sheriff Helder has to be that more busy. Whenever we first looked at our budget this year, if we didn't have the jail, we would have been fairly close to spending what we did last year. But the additional burden that money we had to pony up for the jail, that's what threw us over. And so that's why we're here tonight. And so I want you all to know that and be aware of why we're asking for this. It's not something that we're very frivolous about. It's not something we enjoy doing. I mean, the pressure is on us just as much as it is you. And so, having said that, Judge,
Go ahead, read it.
I'm done.
Sure. JP Ussery, read it. Read the ordinance, and are you going to move for it?
Yes, sir.
You'll read it back right off.
An ordinance levying the county, municipal, and school district taxes for the year 2018.
Okay, I move that this be moved as read, adopted as read.
Got a motion by JP Ussery. Second?
Second.
Got a second by JP Harbison. Discussion, JP Madison.
Can I first ask, does this take any kind of extraordinary vote? How does this work?
It's an appropriation ordinance, so it takes, if you're going to pass it on the first go, it'll take 10 yes votes to pass. If it doesn't, then you can pass it by a simple majority, but you'll have to suspend the rules and you'll have to do it 3 times.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So I know this is an issue that's attracted a lot of attention just in a very, very short period of time. And my concern with our effort to raise the millage is how much of a lack of notice there was by it. When I served as the budget chair last year, I tried very hard to get us to look at the millage early in the budget process because I felt like, and I'm sure J.P. Ussery felt the same way in his role as chair this year, that if you're the chair, your job is to look at revenue sources, expenses, and educate the committee on everything. And so I did that. I laid out, our financial picture. I laid out what our millage was, what it would be like if we increased it a little, what it would be like if we increased it a lot. And last year I could not get any traction on any discussion for changing the millage even 0.1. In fact, in discussions with individuals, not members of the court, where I asked people, would you be willing to support a millage increase? I was told, no, my party will find an opponent for me. If I support the millage, I won't do that. Talk to me next year once we've been elected to 4-year terms. And that's what I feel like has happened. That we waited until 2 days after Election Day and said, very surprisingly, when what was on the agenda was to keep all mills the same, and by a voice vote, we increased to the max, which I don't know that really had ever been a discussion point. I think the discussion point had been whether we were going to restore the 0.5 mil that we had reduced in 2011. And that's something I certainly would have been willing to talk about. But we came into this budget process very late, and my understanding is that departments were told to cut their budgets 3%. That was the direction from the chair, not a direction from the committee. And I don't know if everybody cut 3% or not. They were told to justify it if they couldn't cut 3%, but we weren't given that justification. And then I tried to ask questions about the budget on Tuesday night and am just now getting answers tonight, and we're basically not being given a chance to make any changes to line items. And to me, when you're faced with a tough budget situation, you do need to decide, is it something that we can work to find room for, or is it that we have to look to change the millage? And I don't think we've done that work. We've done some of it to try to cut expenses, but I don't think we've done all of it. And I don't think somebody simply reducing their budget is enough, and that we should then not give their budget any scrutiny. Because, for instance, if you go back last year, there were a lot of people who had like one-time computer expenses. Well, that's a one-time expense. I want that money to come back in this year's budget. I don't want them to be able to take that money and move it around and say, well, my budget's still the same. I just took advantage of using that computer and moved it around. And we had some of that going on. But there are expenses in this budget. Are they going to add up to millions of dollars? No, not that I could find. But there are expenses for travel. There are expenses for contracts. There are things in this budget that could be reduced, and we're not being given that opportunity. For instance, we've been given information tonight that was responding to questions that I asked. We're doing a contract with the city of Taneytown to do road work in the city of Taneytown. How does that make sense for our road department when people who live out in the county know what our county roads need? Maybe we're being paid by the city of Taneytown, but private contractors should do that work, not the county. The county should be focusing on our roads, and our employees and our resources should be going to our roads. And so if we have time to go out and do things like that, we have room in our budget to cut, and I will not support this millage increase tonight for those reasons and because of the lack of notice to the public. If we want to talk about a millage increase, let's start talking about it now for next year so that everybody knows what's on the table.
Thank you, J.P. Madison. J.P. Bowman and then J.P. Ussery.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. You know, I want those of you in this audience tonight to know that you're looking at the group up here. When all of us are here, there's 15 different opinions in this courtroom about how things need to be done. And we could go through and try to dissect those, but there's not time for that tonight. I want to tell you, I've been on the court 6 years. Every year, I've heard the sky is falling. Every year, it's turned out that it's not been nearly as severe as it sounded. And, you know, this year I was about to propose going ahead and increasing the millage, but I got to investigating a lot of additional things about resources that we have not accessed. We have property coming back from the medical school up here that has a great value, that's underutilized or not utilized at all, for possible resale that generate a lot of money. There's some other assets around in the county that we haven't resourced. I talked to the people in Little Rock today, down there in the legal department for county associations, and found that we have some options there for other funds that have not been touched. So I want to let you know that I will not support the increase this year because of the things I've found out and because I think that the current administration has done a great job of reducing some costs. And I think this thing of getting a 3% reduction from a number of these different departments is a very positive structure, a very positive move that we've not really seen generally happen in the past. So I think there's still additional efficiencies we can come up with, and I'm going to be digging for those, and I think the rest of our folks will be too. So I'll be a no on this proposition.
Thank you, J.P. Bowman. J.P. Ussery.
I'd just like to remind the people on this court that we voted. One of the things that this would include is giving the sheriff's people a raise. And he asked for it because they are greatly underpaid, and we're spending a ton of money training people. And can one of you all back there tell me how many people did you hire last year and had to replace?
Okay.
71, lost
51.
And so just, we hired 71 and we lost 51. It costs an incredible amount to train somebody, and you don't just plug them in, but it takes quite some time to get them trained and back up to speed, or up to speed where they can get out there on their own. And they are paid way less than anybody else. And the sheriff has worked very, very hard. He came up with a step program to pay them an adequate wage. It's not extravagant by any stretch, but it's adequate, and to keep them from being poached or from them leaving. But more importantly, he has about 8 to 10 positions every year that he cannot fill because nobody will apply for them because we're not paying enough. So he's done a great job of coming up with a plan, but in order to do that plan, it's got to be funded. And I believe that passed almost unanimously the other night that we fund that. The only way we can fund that is if we get the money from someplace. So we will not be able to fund that if we do not do this tonight. And so, again, you know, there are 15 people on here, and we're all got to make our choices, and whatever y'all decide, that's where we'll go. And that's all we can do. But I did want you to be aware of those issues. I think they're very important when we're talking about this. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Usher. JP Lundstrom.
It won't take me very long. JP Eva Madison stole my thunder, but I agree with every word she said, and I will not support a 1.1 mil tax increase. I made that clear the other evening at a previous meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, JP Lundstrom. JP Sue Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. What has bothered me about this budget is that for the most part, it's been developed behind closed doors. In the past, we've had many more meetings of the Budget Committee to go over each department's budget line by line. We have an email, maybe more than one, from Judge Zimmerman, where she kept asking when was her budget going to be considered, and we never did. I think it's important not just to reply in writing to some questions, but to let us all hear the questions and the answers, and let the public hear the questions and the answers, because many times more questions come up when you discuss things. So I'm very concerned about the process by which we worked on this budget. I also think that the sudden surprise motion to raise it to the state maximum was a shock to some of us. It certainly was to me. I had thought, if we really get down to it and desperately need money, we'll probably be forced to talk about restoring the half mil that was cut. But we didn't start there. We started at the top. And I didn't have any warning, and the public didn't have any warning, and there was very little chance to participate in alternatives. And this is the motion we have before us tonight, or the ordinance. And I'm just bothered by the way a governmental body answering to the public has handled a tax increase. A tax increase, maybe not huge dollars to each and every person here, but to some people, $5 is money. And I'm not going to support this ordinance tonight. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Madison. JP Dennis.
Haven't got all my thoughts jotted down there, but I'll go ahead and take a stab at this. The hypocrisy of this court is unbelievable. I came on 4 years ago, and I remember Judge Edwards was pushing to get the revenue coming in, and how that we wanted to take that we needed to take the millage up. I heard JP after JP after JP after JP sit here and say we made a mistake when we lowered the taxes, because we thought we had plenty of revenue, and every year since then, we've lost $1 million, $1.5 million, $1.6 million, $1.7 million. We've lost money every single year where we've used up the reserve. Everybody said we did the wrong thing, but we brought it up 3 different times. I brought it up 2 times, and so I joined the rest of you, and I ran this year as, nope, I would not raise the taxes. I got beat. So undoubtedly, based on that, people disagree with that if the vote tells you how people feel. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and join and say I'll stick with my guns. I said I wouldn't raise the taxes, so I won't raise the taxes. That's enough votes to kill it right now. Discussion ought to just end and go home.
You're going to go ahead.
But do I think it's the right thing for the county? Now, I'm going to look out here and look at y'all. Do I think it's the right thing for the county to get in stress financially so that our credit ratings go down, so that we don't pay our people properly, so we don't take care of the roads the way they should be taken care of, which they're not as good as they could be, but they're working hard at it. Are we not going to protect our deputies? Are we not going to pay our deputies? Are we going to let them get shot at 15, 20 times from some idiot and not try to protect them? Sure. It's easier to sit up here and say, oh, yeah, we'll agree with y'all. But are y'all representative of the whole county? I talk to people day in and day out in my job because I'm out in the public all the time. And most of them look at me and say, if y'all would just do the right thing and do it one time and get it over with and move on would be the best thing. I hear that all the time. But we don't do it. We and I'm not going to use kick the can down the road because I hate that saying. We don't take care of things during the year. We wait and push it right up to the end. J.P. Madison, I applaud her. She did a great job. Bill Essery did a great job. But we can't communicate with each other because of the state laws. We can't go together and have a little meeting and say, well, let's go talk to Russell Hill and see about his budget. One person, one JP can't work with another JP. So we come in here all at one time in November and say, oh, well, we got to get it done. Well, you can't get it done that quick. You can get it done that quick, but do we know you know as much as what we know about it. You really do. I mean, it's been posted, so you know as much as what we know about it. So it is tough for us to make a good scientific decision. But overall, this county or this court over the last several years has just let it go. And now we're going to have to, someone's going to have to pay the price. I won't be here, but front row over here, y'all are going to be here, and you got to figure it out now. Because when it fails tonight, it's all on your shoulders, brothers and sisters. It's all on you then. And you'll say, well, I ran not to raise taxes. Well, then work miracles then, because you're going to have to figure out how to cover the expenses without the revenue. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Dennis. J.P. Pine, and then J.P. Harbison.
After consulting with a handful of my constituents this morning, and they knew full well that in order to save the road program, I was willing to vote for a millage increase. They appreciated that because they did appreciate our keeping the roads up. Millions of dollars have been invested in property in the county, and it's not a whole lot of it left anymore. That's a rural area. It's a bedroom community. They appreciated that I would stand up for enough of an increase in the millage to save the road program and recognize the money that we're losing from training deputies. Once they're trained, they go on to one of the cities right here in the same county with us. It's a really a good deal for the cities who by and large take in a lot of our money. Most of the folks in here that made comments to me personally this evening had complaints about horrible taxes they're paying in the city. And I admit I would not be able to live in this city. If you gave me a house here, I wouldn't be able to afford to pay the utilities and the taxes on it. You might think I'm exaggerating, but it might be pretty easy to check what kind of income my wife and I live on. But that being said, they appreciated that I would stand up for that, but they also would appreciate just not having to pay another $22 a year. Okay, maybe a couple of them would have had to pay 10 times that $22 that I spoke with. And many more of you in here have so many taxes piled on you, you never even realize what a small piece of the pie, after you pay your taxes on the school and your city and your library and all that, what a small piece of the pie that county road program receives or that county sheriff receives. But you can come up here and be very upset about the amount of money you're paying, and you don't want to pay another $22. So we don't have to keep training deputies and send them and just keep them maybe long enough to be very well trained and have some experience. And then the cities, they hire them, and the cities don't have to spend that money training them. they're ready to go. And it's safer for them in town than it is out there. Having the shootouts and that sort of thing, and that's happening more and more. And the jail's too small to keep so many people in there that need to be in the jail. But I will not, I think as Mr. Dennis said, we might as well end discussion right now because there's not enough votes here to pass it. We've got people that didn't even show up to face y'all and do a vote. I'm telling you now, and if you read the paper, you saw in there before the election, when I was interviewed by Northwest Arkansas Times, I told them in there, it's no big surprise, I was willing to put the millage back in order to save the road program. Not any point in doing it now. And the people who are going to suffer from this, they're going to understand. And by the way, I'll enjoy my extra $22 this year. Appreciate y'all coming out and telling us how you felt. Thank you.
J.P. Pond, thanks. J.P. Harbison.
We sat here and approved and went on and approved the sheriff's budget, and I voted no because we didn't have the revenue to pay for it. It's $1 million. Right now, we are $1 million more on our budget than we were at this time last year. So we're down to about $3 million carryover, $2 million. That's a long ways from the 10% that we should have. I'm going to make a motion, but if it's not going...
It's motion on the floor.
What?
There's already a motion on the floor.
Well, it's motion on the floor. I want to make an amendment. I want to make an amendment to restore the 0.5 of a mil that we reduce. This really wouldn't be an increase. It will be to restore what we've had in the past because we don't have the money to run this county. And we don't have the money to give Sheriff Helder the increase that he needs to keep this county safe. And to me, we can talk about the road department, but the road department is completely off limits as far as I'm concerned because we have more roads than we have money that we can take care of. Yes, we have a little over $2 million excess, but we have to have that money when we have a snowstorm or we have a flood and it wipes out a bridge because we have to pay for this before FEMA comes in. So we've got to have this excess money in the road department. We have 1,000 miles of paved road. We have 1,000 miles of gravel road, and then we have 1,000 miles of what we call residential drives. Those residential drives, some of them have 10, 15, 20 houses on them. Those need to be brought up to standard and be brought into the county system. So the road department does not have excess money. I'm going to make a motion to amend the millage from the 5 mills to 4.4 mills, and that would be restoration of the 0.5 of a mil that we reduced several years ago. I think that's a good compromise, and I hope everybody will support it. It will give us close to $2 million for this extra for this next year. It will take care of the sheriff's department, and we'll have a little bit of wiggle room. Thank you. Do I have a second?
We got... Hold on. So J.P. Ussery, do you accept the amendment on your motion? Okay. So we got a motion on the floor amendment on the floor to amend the motion, which was to pass the millage. So as opposed to the full millage, it'll be a half a mill.
Add 5/10 to the 3.9 that we have now, which would be 4.4.
4.4 mil. So we have any second?
Seconded.
So we have a second. Discussion.
I do.
Discussion. JP Ecke, then JP Usry.
Just to be clear, I get confused sometimes when there are some people who talk out of both sides of their mouth and you're trying to make sure or try to decipher and discern the truth. Let it be known that Chairman Bill Usry did an excellent job at presenting this budget and visiting with all the department heads and coming up with leadership and numbers to present to the Committee of the Whole. When Justice Madison was chairman, she did an outstanding job as well. I was reminded by Justice Devens that the reason why Justice Madison's budget failed was because it was contingent on the millage increase, and nobody voted for that. So therefore it failed. To say that it was sprung on us at the last minute, and how dare we 2 days after the election, well, that's just how the committee happened to fall. That is not so. We have known this and have been cognizant of this since the beginning. Since the first of the year, there has been discussion on the millage. Every time our treasurer comes and shows us the numbers of how we're hemorrhaging because of the millage reduction. So I do take exceptions to those that say, we need to raise the millage, but I'm not going to vote for it. That is nonsensical. I don't understand how you can make that statement. You know you need to do this, and we need to do what is right, but yet you know what is right, but you're not going to do it. Because that's just the way you are. I don't understand that. It is a difficult decision. And I know that you can look at us and say we're just flopping this off on y'all's back and have to pay for it. We're taxpayers as well. Believe me, my husband gets mad and says, don't you dare. And I said, okay, then let's have a discussion. At our house, we don't have discussions. He says that's just the way it is. Okay. So, but what do? We're not just flopping this off on you. We've talked about it and talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. We have not sprung this on anybody at the last minute. This is the last minute, but we haven't. And I want that to be clear. Chairman Usry has done an outstanding job in leading the Budget and Finance Committee this year. Before him, Justice Madison, I said she did a grand slam in her presentation of where we were and how we were hemorrhaging because of the millage reduction. So where are we? Do we do it or do we not do it? Are y'all going to egg our house and toilet paper our houses if we do or if we don't? I know, but you should hear some of the emails that we get. It's ridiculous. It's a tough decision, but we have to do what is right. And we ask that you understand that and weigh that, because we're listening to all of y'all. We're just asking for your understanding. And I just want to make those points clear that we have done due diligence. We really have. We were challenged by Jim Estes, and I feel confident that we did the challenge. We looked and we looked and we looked and we looked. Now, these last-minute ideas, to all due respect, Justice Bowman, I wish you would have told us 3 months ago what these ideas were. Perhaps we could have had a discussion on that, and the millage would have been different. That's bringing something up on the end. All these ideas, why didn't you tell us this before? We could have had a discussion. But now we have to make a vote. And I ask for your civility, respect, as we respect your voice. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Ecke. JP Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. You know, one thing I think that probably routinely gets cited is the unappropriated reserves left in the county general fund budget. That is ignoring the fact that we have a setback of $7,666,268. In addition to that, we're carrying forward from unappropriated reserves. Right now, it looks like that we're moving $12,239,531 forward. Now, those are all funds that will be contributing to our total potential operating income for next year. Now, we still have to set back 10% for the state mandated setback. But what I'm trying to tell you is, Ms. Ecke said something about me bringing ideas to you earlier. I can tell you that some of these ideas were generated today because of all the frustration of what we're dealing with right now. I had some ideas and began to dig for additional information. And I found some very interesting information from our state association. I got that today. But I found out that there's some ways to access some of these funds that we've not discussed. I don't know if anybody else knows about it. But I talked to the attorneys down there and discovered this today. I have been talking about charging cities a fee for the jail use for 2 years. It's only recently that it's been considered seriously. That would mitigate, if they just provide $1 million from all of our cities, that would take care of the gap we're dealing with. The cities have been discussing this. A couple of them met with our leadership today or this week and said they're prepared to start paying to help mitigate that cost. So, you know, I guess one reason I'm voting against this thing, sometimes we don't do things unless it's necessary. We have seen some changes in the 6 years I've been here because it was necessary. And, you know, I had one official, elected official in this building, that I went to talking to him about with the increase in technology, you should be having fewer people to work with. My response was, hey, you're not chief of staff. And I said, no, but remember, he doesn't have a vote and I do. And that's an official that has quite a bit of money in a automation fund. I found out today that they can use that for automation, responsibilities, equipment, and salaries. We're paying quite a bit of money in there for those departments that have a lot of automation funds. We're talking about buying, $65,000 worth of computers. A number of those computers will be going into those departments and a technology fee. So why can they not help us with that instead of bringing it all out of the general fund? It doesn't make any sense. So there are all kinds of possibilities out here that have not been explored. And I tell you something else. We got 9 new Quorum Court members coming on next year. There is a learning curve in coming into this process. Every year, I still feel like I'm learning things. Well, my Lord, I never heard of that before. And I talk to people in this courthouse, and some of them don't know things I've dug up. So you got to understand, this is a very complex process. There's all kinds of state laws that we have to abide by and guidelines we have to abide by. And it's a full-time job trying to figure out how all of them come together. But we're hustling. We got a team here in the courthouse today that, in my opinion, is doing a fantastic job of continuing to look for ideas and ways that we can continue to improve efficiency. The first year I was on this court, I asked about efficiencies. And since then, we began to hear a few other JPs asking for efficiencies. And we've got to continue to push for efficiencies to make this county what it needs to be. So that's why I'm voting against it, and I'm going to ask everybody else to do the same. And let's continue to look for ideas and way to utilize the funds we have to work with right now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, J.P. Bowman, J.B. Harbison, J.P. Usry, J.P. Patterson, J.P. Roush.
I'll have to agree with Harvey that we've got an excess amount of money in the automation funds, but I've been told that we could not use that money for salaries or general expenses. And, so I don't know what the rules are on that. So we've got, well, $1 million or more, closer to $2 million in automation funds. But, we've been told in the past that we couldn't budget that belonged to the departments. And those departments decide how that was spent. So anyway, but that's not the issue I really want to talk. I think that this is a good compromise on the 5/10s to restore. That would not be really increasing the millage. It would be restoring. It would give us about $2 million. And we always can if we start building up excessive amounts of funds, we can always reduce the millage again. Also, you need to take into effect that the economy is picking up. If the assessment in the county goes over 10%, then the millage will be automatically reduced. And it was reduced when I first came on the court by 1/10 of a mil. And a couple or 3 years before that, it was reduced. So there's some things here that reduces the millage when excessive funds or excessive evaluation of property occurs. I talked to Bobby Hill, and he is very, very concerned about the amount of money that the county has in reserve. He does not like that reserve to drop below $10 million. And it always, sometimes in November, does that. And he is the one that I'm taking my clue from that we need to increase the millage some, because he's very concerned about the county. Now, I'm all for efficiencies and cutting costs and doing all of these things that we can do, but we've been doing these over a period of years. New things come up, new laws come up, maybe making available funds that we haven't used before. But I really think that we need to restore the 5/10 of a mil. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Harbison. J.P. Usry, then Patterson.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of things. First of all, Harvey, just so you understand, we have that $12 million in rollover. That's included in the money to budget. And so that every year we include that in what we budget. And so that doesn't change anything at all. And the automation fund is the same way. Everything that goes over that flows back into the general. All those things are taken into consideration in what we budget. That's not free money out there. It's already accounted for. And we need to make sure we understand that's the reason that we're in the position that we're in. And then the last thing is, everybody here, I want to remind you one more time that we voted to support the sheriff. If we vote no on this, then we're not going to be able to support the sheriff. It's just not going to happen. There's no way that can occur. And what I try to do, and hopefully I've demonstrated this year, is I really don't care what we can't do, but I'm going to do what I can do. This is something we can do to make the county sustainable. Otherwise, next year we'll be having the same discussion. Y'all be having the same discussion, and you probably will. I mean, I've been here 6 years. Every year, we might as well just tape record this thing and play it again, because it's going to happen. We need to stand up for what's right. I realize there are a lot of people here that are against this, but the people I've talked to said you need to do what you need to do to make sure that we're sustainable and that we can continue to do business next year. That was why I rattled off all those things that we're doing, because I think it's important. we represent the entire county. We don't represent 25 people or 100 people. But we have to listen to them, and we're going to listen to everybody, and that's our responsibility. But the bottom line is that we were elected to be responsible for the county, and in my mind, this is the responsible thing to do. And we're going to vote, and that's why we're going to vote, because, you know, it's on everybody else. It's certainly not on me. Thank you.
Thank you, JP. That's JP Patterson.
Thank you, Judge. I don't even know where I want to start, but I can tell you one thing. This will work out. When I come on the court, the jail that just opened, and I went to the first meeting when they had the dedication of the jail. And the first thing I heard saying, well, when are we going to have another pod? And I thought, another pod? Why would anybody need another pod? We've been talking about the one we're going to have and the one that's here right now for years. For the first budget I done too, you know, you kind of hate the budget didn't leave a mess. But the budget will pass. It's the law. First year we come into the room night like this, and the budget's ready, we're going to pass it. One thing happened. They forgot to add in the cost of the original old jail before they started the new jail. So they $956,000. $956,000 was only had to have. We didn't have it. But that was when the circuit clerk had this fund, which is not that way now. She wrote us a check for $956,000, and we balanced the budget. That was kind of a God thing, I thought, you know, to come up with that kind of money, small county. But we move on, you know, we moved to various things. We had, like the animal shelter. We come in. It wasn't going to cost too much to run the animal shelter. We were going to charge people for the dogs in the small towns. These dogs are educated. When they see the warden coming, they run in the county because they don't talk. And I can show you the figures. We estimated 86,000 and we got 14. That's just on the dog deal. Mm-hmm. When we're sitting here worrying about money, it takes $1 million a week to run this place, the county. Basically. So even with the 10 weeks, that's just, what, February? Something went wrong today. But these things will work out. They always do. But we encourage you, if you're going to make changes for next year, start them in January. We never do. We always say we're going to. But we have a way of talking about them. Yeah, we're going to be starting the budget next month. This is July. Here we are now, 15th day of November, 45 days left in the year. You don't have your budget. And most of the people sitting around here aren't happy with it. I never really found one I went home and felt like I was happy with. Never did. But they had to be done. There's always changes we could have made. But you'll all make it. You're going to have a whole bunch of new people here. I don't envy your position. But anyway, I know you're going to get this done.
Thank you, JP.
And I just appreciate for what you do, because it's quite a responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Patterson. JP Roush, you good? Public comments? Public comments? Mm-hmm.
It was a friendly amendment, so the motion's been amended.
Thank you. I'm Jim House. I think most of you know me. I'm coming to encourage you to pass the 5/10 of a mill. 2020 is coming at this county. It's going to change what our current judge is going to have to do. He's got a tough job. 2020 is coming. We need to begin to build that revenue source back up so you've got some things to do with it. We've got a new radio system for our county people, for our volunteer fire departments. We need to develop that reserve. So I just want to come up and say, wish I could have been there to help you do it, But I do believe that you better begin to develop a reserve and pass this compromise legislation that you're talking about right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. House. Public comments.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, JPs. Lorraine O'Neill, I live here in Fayetteville. And I've seen this budget wrangling go on year after year for several years. And it's a process. It's never easy. And I know you guys have the county's best interest at heart. There are many of you who are more inclined to raise taxes. And I understand the reasoning behind it. You've made it very clear. You've laid out your case, and it's very sensible. I hope that if you do pass it, you will not discontinue trying to pursue some of the ideas that Bowman just pass it, it's off our head, let's go on, but continue to pursue exploring some of the ideas for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. O'Neill.
Just have a couple of comments on some things I've heard, and I can appreciate your job. I'm telling you, it's a lot easier to say we need this and we need that, but I've watched this thing for quite some time. I've heard a lot of claims made about how we've had efficiencies. Well, if you have efficiencies, then you're not going to need so much money next year, right? So keep it up. That sounds good. The sheriff's doing some things. They're saving money. Well, that should bode better for next year's budget. I think one of the things that I would suggest that I haven't really seen promoted on this in this court is, what are you doing that you shouldn't be doing at all? I mean, that's something that we try to do in our business, is look at things we may or may not be doing well or that cost something, but should we be back up and should we even be doing it at all? Now, I was here, 5 years ago when the animal shelter was going to cost $700,000, then $1.5 million. You got a $3 million animal shelter with $1 million budget every year. Now, you're going to have to pay for the decisions you made. So you might rethink what the role of government is. Now, I believe, and I asked the judge this a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember, but as the county road system gets smaller because of annexing, shouldn't the budget go down for the roads? I mean, I was annexed out in Prairie Grove. Big land area, Farmington, Prairie Grove, annexed a lot of the county. Well, there's roads you don't have to deal with anymore, right? So as the county gets smaller, the budget should get smaller. I also heard Butch talk about $22. Well, that's great. You know, and I think you can handle it. Be glad to pay it. But what you got to consider is that somebody that owns several rental houses, and that's their business, they're going up $220 each. And somebody that owns a McDonald's, they're going up $2,200 a year. And somebody that owns a large employer manufacturing company, it's $22,000 a year. Well, that's who's paying the tax. Now, if you want to be fair about it, then have it per person, not per house, or per property value. Have it per person. And I agree with what I've heard. Let's let Fayetteville pony up. Those people waste more money than any city I've ever heard of on the stupidest stuff that government should not be doing in the first place. Don't follow them. Have them pay their fair share. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Maynard.
I'm speaking as a citizen of Washington County who pays taxes. I pay my fair share, I promise.
Right,
and I don't like
you
writing
are.
that check.
Right.
But I do it because my tax money goes to good causes. And it goes to things like paying our deputies, not even close to what they deserve, but it goes toward that. We have had a deputy, and I know that you saw the video. Our deputy, Brett Thompson, has been with the Washington County Sheriff's Office for more than 10 years. He makes less than $20 an hour. And he got shot at. By the grace of God, he did not get hit. 40 rounds were shot back and forth. For this officer who has dedicated his life to the citizens of Washington County, not because it's for the money, obviously it's not for the money, but because he has a servant's heart in caring for the community and protecting the citizens. And I wish there was another way to not have to pay $22 extra a year or even $2,200. But if that's what it takes to compensate our employees and our law enforcement officers for even no amount of money can compensate them for what they have to do. But they deserve so much more. And it's our responsibility to pay them. I, as a citizen, am willing to do that. I know that there is a large number of people here, and they rallied and got people here. But I promise you, there is a silent majority of people that I have spoken with and community members that also vote, that also pay taxes, that are more than willing to pay that extra amount. I vote every time the doors are open, I promise you. And I pay attention as a citizen of this county. And I want our deputies to be paid what they deserve. And there's no way they're going to be able to do that unless you are strong enough and have enough will to do the right thing. Quit listening to all this mess. Do the right thing and raise the taxes or whatever you have to do to compensate these people who are getting shot at, who are going and putting on that vest every single day to protect the citizens of Washington County, not knowing if they're going to come back home. Brett Thompson makes less than $20 an hour. He has a wife, he has a young child, he has people who love him. He goes to work every day for all of us. Please make the right choice and the right decision. Do the right thing. I'm a citizen. I vote as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Todd Crane again. I just want to basically address the idea that the only way that the sheriff's employees can get a raise is if we pass this increase. It's a zero-sum game. The money can come from any other department. It can come from a lot of different places. It doesn't have to come from a tax increase. Like Joe said, what are we doing that we shouldn't be doing? What are things that we're doing too much of? What's the appropriate role of government? And I haven't watched all of the budget meetings online, but I'm confident that all of the department heads have not removed all of the waste from what they do. And there are other places when you go through the county Association of Counties and look at the handbook and the way that dedicated funds are allocated, there are other places that some things can come from that aren't being used right now. And so my personal opinion isn't that I'm against the tax at any and all costs. It's that should be the last step, the only option, and it's not. So just want to make sure that, and even to what Butch had said about it's only $22. There are people who that's a big deal for, and whenever if you live paycheck to paycheck and an extra expense comes in and that affects whether or not you can pay your mortgage or pay your rent, it's a big deal. whenever you're budgeting for your own personal expenses, you have two options. You make more money or you lower your expenses. Many people don't have the option of making more money. So when you're forced with those hard decisions, and that's really what I encourage you to do, is don't do the millage, force those hard decisions, because now you really have to honestly evaluate what's necessary. If you have extra money, it's easy to spend, but when you have to make hard decisions, you've got to really get down in the weeds and understand your finances, understand what's going on, and you really can understand where you can cut and remove the unnecessary operations. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Crane.
My name is Jim Estes. My name was mentioned a while ago, so I thought I'd better come up and defend myself. A year ago, we sat here and we talked about this, and I guess maybe I was a little harsh and chided some of you a little bit because I didn't think that the work had been done to really uncover every opportunity and every possibility to save money. It didn't seem like that you guys were ready to do it. J.P. Usry, I'll give you credit that I really think that you did a better job this year than was done last year in trying to do that, and especially challenging the departments to save money. I'll also tell you that I was extremely disappointed when I read that the options were no increase or all the way to 5 mills. I thought that was kind of out of balance, because it seems to me that if you're going to balance the budget, you've got to look at the revenue and you got to look at the spending. And if there's a need for more revenue, you only going to bring as much in as is necessary to handle the necessary spending. And I think the idea, J.P. Harbison, of reducing that amount back down to the 4.4 mills is a valuable idea, but understand, to raise 5/10 of a mill, it's not a reinstatement. It's an increase in taxes. Okay, so I don't know what the right amount is. Maybe it's 1/10 of a mill. Maybe it's 3/10 of a mill. Maybe it's the whole thing. But if it's the whole thing, and 2000 comes, and what's going to happen around here with the reduction in land and so on and so forth, what's going to happen when we can't raise it anymore because we're at the state maximum? Where are we going to go then? Well, okay, so I think that the job has been done better. I think the discussion has been more reasonable tonight, and I appreciate all that you guys have done. I really do. I don't know where you're going to come down on this. I don't know where you're going to vote. But I'm much more satisfied with what was done and much more willing to accept your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. Public comments.
My name is Zach Schnault. I live in Fayetteville.
Mr. Schnault, good evening.
I'll be very brief. Per Bobby Hill, we will not run out of money. That was clearly stated on
Your mic.
It's off.
Push the button. It's a white. There you go.
Thank you.
Mr. Schnault.
Thanks again. Zane Schnault, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Per Bobby Hill, we will not run out of money. That was clearly stated in one of the forums that we had. There are clearly more efficiencies to be gained. Mr. Bowman, you pointed out a few, as well as some other folks. I think we should spend a year exploring all cost items. Maybe we should have a task force developed to explore cost items. Give the newly elected JPs a chance to perform their duty that they were elected for. We can at least wait a year to raise this millage. We've got enough money to get through a year. Raise the millage in 2020 if we need to, but let's spend the next year exploring all cost items, all efficiencies, and give the newly elected folks a chance to do their job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chenault. Other comments?
Tim Helder, Judge. I live in West Fork, Arkansas, taxpayer in Washington County since 1976, I guess.
Welcome this evening.
I also work for the county, and I work for the people. I've been vilified for partnering with the federal government tonight. I've been criticized for not running the jail right, for not seeking out all the efficiencies that need to be. But I would just remind this court, well, before I do that, I wish I could poll each of you and ask you if what Bill's statement is accurate. Does the step plan hinge on passing a millage? If that's the case, I'm gonna yell and scream, and I'm gonna pound on this podium. I'm gonna tell you, pass a millage, because we all agree. Not one of you disagrees that we've got to get this done. Now, if that's the case, I'm going to argue vehemently about this. I'm not sure I need to do that. I think we can find a way, but if it's a millage, I'm going to push you to that point. We're talking about Brett Thompson. Just briefly, 53-second gun battle. He does that for less than $20 an hour. I would venture, if I went around this horseshoe, there's not one of you that would get in that situation for $1 million a year. I'm telling you. But we do it for the love of the job. It's our calling. I understand that. I go right back to the idea that this is the right thing to do to get this done. Whether it's a millage passage, I don't know. I'm not allowed to poll you. I can't figure it out. But people, let's don't forget that just 3 years ago, I had a deputy shot responding to a domestic. 2.5 years ago, I had a deputy shot in an open field search with a mentally ill person. This is happening on a regular basis, and we are paid at substandard wages. We don't have the benefits to compete with area agencies. We have got to get this done. I didn't wake up last month talking about this issue. We have been considering this issue for over 2 years. The reason I feel a sense of urgency is because of you, Fred, Joe, Tom, people that are going off this court that I have confidence in that understand what I'm talking about. You know that people move to Washington County because they look at the situation with our medical, they look at the situation with our schools, but you want to know what's more important to them? It's our law enforcement and our emergency services. We are a huge part of why people move to Washington County, why they feel safe here. Our crime rate is low. We handle things in an appropriate manner. Guys, I've talked myself blue in the face, bragging on my people. I've showed you videos. I don't know what else to do. If it's for me, Tom, to convince you to pass a millage, I'll come back here and twist your arm. But if that's not necessary, I just want to remind you, we've got to get this done. I am confident in you that we're going to do that. But if it's a millage, then vote the stupid thing back in. If it's not, figure out a way to get this done. That's on you. I've done all I can do to explain to you what our needs are and what's the right thing to do. I think you understand. I'm confident you're going to do that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Helder. Public comments. Public comments. Okay. Question called. We got a motion on the floor, friendly amendment to reduce the millage or raise the millage to the 4.4. That's Ms. Patty. You want to do the roll?
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Roush.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
No.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
No.
Eva Madison.
No.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
No.
That's 9. You making?
I make a motion that we suspend the rules and advance this to second reading by title only.
All right, it's been moved by Justice Madison, second by J.P. Pond, to move to second reading. Read by title only. Counselor.
An ordinance levying the county, municipal, and school district taxes for the year 2018.
Discussion. Oh, did we vote on the?
Motion to suspend.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
My bad.
All in favor? Those opposed? All right. And then we read discussion. Any discussion? Public comments?
No.
All right, Ms. Patty.
No, one more.
Oh, we're going to suspend one more time.
I move we suspend the rules and advance this to third and final reading by title only.
Motion by J.P. Madison to move to the third reading. Second by J.P. Pond. All in favor? Those opposed? J.P. Bowman.
Did it pass or fail?
It failed.
It failed.
Well, it didn't pass by 10. That's why we're going through.
Oh, got you. Okay.
Okay.
9 votes.
That's right.
So it's going to pass.
Okay.
An ordinance levying the county, municipal, and school district taxes for 2018.
Go ahead, Ms. Patty. Any other discussion here? Go ahead, J.P. Dennis.
Now, is this for the amendments? We're through with the amendment, or is
No,
it still the amendment?
one.
The motion on the floor, the ordinance motion on the floor is to pass the millage with increasing the general mill from 3.9 to 4.4. That's what's on the floor to be voted on this vote right now. This will be the final vote. It will only require a simple majority to pass on this go-round.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Patty.
No.
Public comments. Ms. Patty.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Usry.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
No.
Eva Madison.
No.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
Okay. So the 4.4 millage is now in play. We're going to item number 28, J.P. Usry.
This is an ordinance that is recognizing.
J.P. Usry, health site.
Okay, yeah, let's do short recess.
Do a 2-minute. 2-minute break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay, we're reconvening. JP's. We're reconvening. JP Usry, you want to go ahead?
Yes, sir. The next thing is the just approving the budget. And it will be the budget as we discussed the other night, and this is the one that includes a step increase for the sheriff. And so, could you read that for us, please, Brian?
An ordinance recognizing revenues and appropriating monies for the expenditures in each fund for Washington County, Arkansas for the year 2019, and adopting a budget for the various departments reflecting the line item expenditures thereof.
Okay, and I move that this be passed as read.
Second.
There's a motion to pass the budget as read by JP Usry, second by JP Harbison. Discussion. Any discussion? Public comment. Who's that? JP Madison. You still got public. Which JP Madison? Eva Madison? JP Madison?
I thought you raised your hand.
I did.
Okay.
I'm still struggling with the budget process itself, and I'm very conflicted because I've worked with the sheriff's office and really want the step increases, and that's a very important part of this budget to me personally, just because I know that it's been something that the sheriff's office has really had an impact on my view of that issue over the past couple of years. And it's one of the reasons I actually wanted to make sure I ran for another term, was to see that we got that done. But the rest of the budget gives me a lot of heartburn, just because we just haven't been able to ask questions. There are line items that could be reduced that nobody's willing to talk about them. I tried to ask questions on Tuesday night, and I was told that I wouldn't be given answers. I had to provide my questions in writing, and I was presented with answers tonight that are not, they're close to complete. They're not fully complete, but you've got travel expenses that don't seem justified. You've got capital vehicle purchases that don't seem justified. You've got the fact that we're doing a contract to build roads in the city of Taneytown when... Just ask J.P. Harbison. She'll tell you we need to be working on our county roads. But you've got a $2 million surplus in the jail, not the jail, in the road fund that they're not asking to spend. I fully understand that we have to be prepared for emergencies. I don't know that this county's ever seen a $2 million emergency in 1 year. I don't know that everybody was provided the answers to my questions as I was, but I don't think it's good enough to just say, if you can keep your budget flat, we're all good. We should be able to ask questions and decide whether people need cushy travel budgets, or if we need to have a display in the historic courthouse with a video about the history of Washington County to the tune of $10,000. We need to talk about those things, and we've not been permitted to. Veterans Affairs has a vehicle that was purchased with road department funds. How is that right? So, there has not been sunshine shined on this budget. It has been negotiated behind closed doors with the terms not explained to the JPs. There are statements that have been made that we decided things when this group did not decide them.
Call the question, Judge.
We did not decide. You have to have the floor and be recognized to call the question.
JP Usry, did you have anything?
I have the floor. The prosecutor's office was told we could only afford 3 positions, or we couldn't afford the 3 positions he requested.
support it.
Robert's Rules of Order says that
You're
the
not
person.
parliamentarian. Please stop.
But I know Robert's Rules of Order, and you have to have the floor to call the question. The prosecutor's office asked for 3 new positions. The prosecutor was told they could only have 1. That issue never came before this body. Didn't come to us. There were several instances where they were told things that this body never had a chance to weigh in on. It's our budget. It's our primary responsibility as JPs is to do this budget. And I don't know what people are hiding. I don't know why they don't want us to ask questions. But that is our job. And as much as I want to see the step plan increase and our deputies get the pay that they deserve, the rest of the budget, I have no confidence in.
J.P. Ecke.
Call the question, please.
I still have the floor.
I just stopped it. Call for the question.
You took the floor away from me.
That's correct.
And show me where in parliamentary procedure that is proper.
Okay, we'll let. Can we find that?
Because I'm talking. You recognize me? I'm talking. There's not a time limit.
J.P. Madison, would you please stop? I'm asking you as the parliamentarian because that's what I'm here for. So I'm asking you to please stop because the chair has disrecognized you to speak. You don't get to ramble on. You constantly do this to other people. Please stop because the judge
You're
is
not being a
I'll look at it.
parliamentarian. You're being inappropriate. I am speaking as a member of this court on the issue that is on the floor for a vote.
And
if you're going to
call the question,
and
thank
she
you.
hasn't been recognized to call the question.
I was recognized.
So you're not going to recognize a JP to talk on the most important issue that we vote on.
Absolutely.
Judge, you're being inappropriate.
Okay. J.P. Ecke, you can call for the question.
Call the question, please, Judge.
All right.
Thank you.
So we got a motion to pass the budget as read.
No,
we have a second.
Motion to call the question. Point of
Can we take a vote on the call for the question?
We
You
don't
got a
have
second?
Second.
It's been called and seconded. All in favor? Those opposed?
No.
Okay. Ms. Patty?
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Usry.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison. Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
No.
Eva Madison.
No.
Sue Madison.
No.
Joe Patterson.
Okay, so we move forward on the motion that was on the floor. Any discussion
Can't have discussion. We called the question.
for the vote? Public, any,
No vote.
no public comments? Okay, Ms. Patty?
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Usry.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
No.
Eva Madison.
No.
Sue Madison.
No.
Joe Patterson.
No.
It's 9, you got to have 10. You have to. That's 9. You got to have 10 to pass it on the first round, so you have to move it to the second.
I'd like the motion to suspend the rules and pass it on to second reading.
Second.
Been motioned by J.P. Ecke, seconded by J.P. Pond. Move to second reading. All in favor? Those opposed?
No.
Ms. Patty?
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Usry.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison. Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
No.
Eva Madison.
No.
Sue Madison.
No.
Joe Patterson.
Read it.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion to pass it on to the third and final
I've
reading.
got to read. I've got to read.
Oh, please read.
Didn't get enough to pass to third reading.
Yes, it did.
10.
No.
What was the vote, Ms. Patty?
It's 9-4.
9-4.
It's a majority.
It needs a supermajority to suspend the rules and pass on to second reading.
Just went on to the second reading. This is the third and final reading.
I'm sorry.
If that's the case, we didn't. I think we got an issue with the millage one, too.
Ms. Petty, can you recall what was the millage first read number?
The millage?
I don't think so.
To the third, to the second. I gotta find it. They just did a voice vote. And then this was the final. Eight, nine.
It's 9 to 4. 9
Yes.
to 4.
For third reading.
It was 9 to 4 to move it on to the third.
What was the first one?
You did a voice vote.
Judge, while we're waiting, may I ask that this court please maintain decorum for you and the chair and the parliamentarian and for each other. It's very important. People are watching. Thank you. Is it on both?
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move forward.
Can you tell us what you've done, please?
It takes a two-thirds vote. Two-thirds vote to just suspend the rules, so you need 10, and you only had 9.
All right, so then we're going to look at item number 2. Number 1 is 7. The judge report, in your packet, you got the Quorum County property. You also have in your packet the Washington County Library report. I'm sorry, Mike's out. Is Laura?
No, I'm off.
I'm already out. Sorry, Ms. Laura, I know I just got to ask, and you just asked me, can we talk louder? Can you hear me, please? Ms. Laura? You can hear me okay?
Mine works.
This year that we have, we've been able to make a substantial saving, and everybody's worked very hard on that. It makes no sense to me to have a special meeting because one person, and I'm not being disrespectful in any way at all, but because one person has some questions over all the other people, I realize there were 4 people that voted against it, and I understand that. But I'm deeply troubled by the fact that we're going to spend a tremendous amount of money to do what? I don't know. And so I just want to go on record as saying that. We're all frustrated, and I understand that. Thank you.
I just want to comment on the budget of line items. Yeah, I know, but we're just making, you made a comment, and I just want to.
Point of order, the budget discussion is over, we moved on to the next agenda item. The discussion, there was a question called, but the question was
We're
called.
waiting on this.
But the question was called on the budget discussion, it should be over.
Thank you. Go ahead, Judge Thomas.
You are back to moving against the order. The question was
Well,
called.
I just want to make the motion, when we bring people in and new line items, it upsets them. It upsets the department heads, and the department heads have asked this court, tell us how much you want cut, and we'll cut it. And that's what we did this year. We didn't do the line items because it was always a big, I don't want to say a big fight, but it was a, continuous discussion. And they, just what they said was, tell us how much you want cut. Bill Husband did that as chair. And that's why we didn't go through line item by line item. Thank you.
Get it working. It might be under here. Was it under here last time?
Okay, Ms. Patty, we're going to keep going. I just want to make sure that we capture both numbers.
Sydney, why don't you forget switching there again?
We're going to go ahead and do item number 7, which is the judge report. Again, in your package, you got the disposal of the county property. We have the library report, as well as the HRB claim report. Last week, I do want to do is take out.
Equal healing. Your quilt of valor carries a 3-part message from our hearts. First, we honor you for your service, your willingness to lay down your life for your country. Second, we thank you for your service and your sacrifice and your valor in serving our nation. And last, we hope your quilt provides healing, peace, and comfort. Please know you are forever in our thoughts and our hearts. Thank you.
Come back up. I want to make sure we do something here. Ms. Peggy, can I ask Tom Lundstrom, over there? Tom Lundstrom has served in the Marines from 1957 to 61. So, Mr. J.P. Lundstrom, we want to honor you and recognize you. J.P. Patterson, please join J.P. Lundstrom.
So they can see.
Where you want me to face?
J.P. Patterson was in the Army, 1954 to 1960. Thank you, J.P. Patterson. J.P. Pine. J.P. Pine served in the Navy, 1971 to 73. And J.P. Usher. J.P. Usher also was in the Navy, 1971 to 1975. Can we give these guys a hand?
Gotta leave it on, Tom. It's a photo wall.
Yeah. Let me help you go away. Like an Indian flag. We know how to use those from Oklahoma. Yeah, over that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Okay, item 8, review of the Washington County legislative audit for the year 2016. This needs to make sure that you all who are here spring of this year, 2017, received your copy from the legislative audit. Yes. Somewhere in the spring. If you don't, then let me know, or let me pass you on. Item 9 is a resolution. J.D. Bowman, you want to read that? That's loud, if you would.
Read that, please. A resolution supporting the appointment of bond counsel by the county judge to prepare bond documents for Washington County.
This is to help the construction of the new courtroom upstairs, and this fund accommodates that kind of transfer of law enforcement purposes.
Well, this is
J.P. Max is not in, so that's the one.
Okay. All right. Bond. That. Okay. I checked on the bond fund today. That link with our comptroller and with our treasurer. And there's $180,000 set aside for 6 months.
Well, you're still on the sheriff and those that asked for bond counsel to start looking at what is the cost of the construction and the study.
Sorry about that.
That's what that means.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Judge.
have a motion for the resolution? Yes. And second by J.P. Carson. Discussion. Any discussion, public comment? Public comments. All right, Ms. Patty.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Usry.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devons.
Yes.
Robert Dennis. Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison. Colleen Briney. Tom Lundstrom. Eva Madison. Sue Madison. Joe Patterson.
Item 10, J.P. Devons, and the Joe Maxwell.
County Attorney, could you please read this?
It's an emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Ozarks Electric Wave Substation.
This is a substation that is enclosed in an area and is seen on a 3.2 acre property. To my knowledge, they're leaving one citizen that had some questions about this, and it was all fixed and brought up to standard. I think I'm gonna have to defer to Mr. Nathan for further comments.
If there's any other questions.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions.
Do you have a motion?
Yeah, I'm that we need to see it.
We have a motion to ratify the CP and a second by J.P. Dennis. Any other discussion? Any discussion? Any public comments? Public comments? All right, Ms. Patty.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Usry.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devons.
Yes.
Robert Dennis. Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison. Colleen Briney. Tom Lundstrom. Eva Madison. Sue Madison. Joe Patterson.
An emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board for wholesale motor cars.
I read the board's comments on this. It's like an 18-acre parcel of land, but they're only going to be using a very small portion of it to put in a small car lot. It passed unanimously with those that were present at the meeting, with one absent, and I saw nobody complaining about this CUP, so I move that we ratify number 11. Second.
Moved by J.P. Lundstrom, second by J.P. Farm. Any discussion? Any discussion, public comments? Any public comments? Ms. Patty.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Usry.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devons.
Yes.
Robert Dennis. Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison. Colleen Briney. Tom Lundstrom. Eva Madison. Sue Madison. Joe Patterson.
J.P. Ecke, item 13.
Item 12.
The emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Shadow Hound meter.
This is just another very small kind of establishment in a very secluded place, very low impact, kind of a mom and pop kind of business. Not to be visitors, guests there, anything like that. I don't believe it had any complaints, any concerns. Kind of like very good. I move we pass this.
Got a motion by J.P. Farm, second by J.P. Harbison. Discussion? J.P. Madison.
Honey wine.
Honey beer, honey wine. It's malt beverage made.
Public comments? Public comments? Ms. Patty.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Fred Rouse,
Yes.
Bill Usry,
Yes.
Harvey Bowman,
Yes.
Alicia Devins, Robert Dennis, Lisa Ecke, Ann Harbison, Colleen Briney, Tom Lundstrom, Eva Madison, Sue Madison, Joe Patterson.
Hey, we got
Too much.
You turn that one off.
We were actually going to try and get you a little bit more feed.
Okay, great. Item 13, JP Ecke now.
Thank you, Judge. This has to do with the employee handbook. We have updated and revised it and brought it all up to date. And if you would please, Mr. Lester.
An ordinance repealing all previous versions of the Washington County Employee Handbook and approving the Washington County Employee Handbook 11-2018.
I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Second by
We will. Mr. Lester, are we needing 3 readings on this or just this one? This will be 3. I'd like to make them. Oh, we have to.
So to spare everyone my employment law lecture tonight at almost 9 o'clock, I'm just going to say there are policies that were not reviewed that I do not think are compliant. So I'm going to be abstaining from this vote. I know that JP Ecke worked on this on some very discrete areas. I have problems with other areas that were not worked on, and so I'm going to abstain from the vote and will attempt to address those later. But I wanted to just say that for the benefit of everyone understanding why I'm voting the way I am. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Just one more. Colin Jurgensen from the Association of Counties went through all the updates on employment law, and I know that I'm not the attorney on the court. And with all due respect to what Ms. Madison thinks, I think it's an opinion because this has been highly complimented by the Association of County for the thoroughness of our handbook, and we at Washington County should be very proud of the final product. Mr. I'd like to suspend the rules and advance this to the second reading.
Second.
Motion by JP Ecke, second by JP Pine to move to the second reading. All in. Did we do?
No, you don't. You wouldn't vote on the first one because it has to have 3 distinct readings. You only vote on the third reading.
So she's moving to read it.
To read it a second time.
Sorry.
Correct.
All in favor? Those opposed?
No.
All right. Read.
Sorry. An ordinance repealing all previous versions of the Washington County Employee Handbook and approving the Washington County Employee Handbook 11-2018.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. I'd like to suspend the rules and advance this to the third and final reading.
That's a motion to move to the third reading, second by JP Pine. All in favor? Those opposed? Go ahead, JP. Counsel.
An ordinance repealing all previous versions of the Washington County Employee Handbook and approving the Washington County Employee Handbook 11-2018.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt our employee handbook for Washington County.
Second.
There's a motion to adopt the employee handbook, a second by JP Devins. Any discussion? JP Pine.
Yes, I'd like to recognize that Mr. Watson spent a lot of hours on this, worked on it very hard. I appreciate what he and Ms. Ecke have done. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Pine. Any other discussion? Public comments? Public comments. Ms. Patty?
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Fred Rouse,
Yes.
Bill Usry,
Yes.
Harvey Bowman,
Yes.
Alicia Devins,
Yes.
Robert Dennis,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke, Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Colleen Briney,
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Abstain.
Sue Madison,
Yes.
Joe Patterson.
Yes.
Okay. JP Ecke. Item 14.
Yes, this is an ordinance changing the titles from the diversion coordination coordinators. This comes from Judge Zimmerman's office, And what they're doing is just changing the title to positions that they had. So I'd like to make a motion, or if you would, Mr. Lester, please read the ordinance.
Sure.
There was not any appropriations to this. Judge Zimmerman had this in her budget due to a senior employee retiring. And so this is not an appropriations. It's just to legally change the name for the line items to the 2019 budget. Okay.
An ordinance changing the titles of division coordinator to juvenile intake diversion coordinator, or diversion coordinator to juvenile intake diversion coordinator, juvenile officer to juvenile probation officer, and juvenile officer / specialized police officer to lead juvenile officer for the Circuit Court 3 budget for 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Lush. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and advance this to the second reading.
Second.
A motion by J.P. Yaki, a second by J.P. Dennis. Move to second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, Counselor.
An ordinance changing the titles of diversion coordinator to juvenile intake diversion coordinator, juvenile officer to juvenile probation officer, and juvenile officer specialized police officer to lead juvenile officer for the Circuit Court 3 budget for 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. I'd like to make a motion to advance this to the third and final reading.
Second.
Motion by J.P. Yaki, second by J.P. Dennis.
Point of order. Can I ask a question? Why are we amending the 2019 budget?
It's not amending the 2019 budget. What they're doing is ensuring that the line items, the names on the 2019 line item budgets reflect the change that they are being made today. They're just changing the title to the positions, and unless we change the titles to the positions now, then in the 2019 budget will not reflect that.
I would like to direct my point of order to the chair. We can't amend a budget that hasn't passed yet, and moreover, it's an appropriation ordinance, and so
It's not an appropriations ordinance.
Well, an amendment to the budget is an appropriation ordinance because the budget is an appropriation ordinance, and so it would pass with 10 votes, but we can't amend an ordinance that hasn't passed. We can't change something in the 2019 budget.
Until we pass the budget.
So,
okay.
Well, we're changing it to now and effective also for the 2019 budget. This happened last year with Judge Zimmerman's office when they came forward and asked to change the names, the titles to their positions, and which we did. And then they turned around, the previous comptroller in 2018 or 17 came back and said, you can't do that, and therefore whatever was in the budget or what the line items there was not legal. So Judge Zimmerman wanted to make sure that these names and these titles to these positions were changed effective now when this ordinance is ratified, and it to reflect in the 2019 line items of the 2019 budget. So it's not an appropriations. I know what Ms. Madison is saying. It has to do with the budget, but there isn't any appropriations being made. There's just the title is being changed, and they want that to reflect in both of them, so that way we don't have the problems that we had last time.
I would again address my point of order to the chair. It's not a matter of whether it appropriates money. It's whether by state law it's an appropriation ordinance. That's the first issue. But the second issue is we can't amend a budget that we haven't passed. I think this motion needs to be merged within the budget. This shouldn't be a second motion. If something needs to be changed in the 2018 budget, then it should only be about the 2018 budget. But we can't amend something in a budget that we haven't approved. So I just think this ordinance is out of order.
What is the? I think. Well, it sounds like changing the title.
Can we move the table this ordinance?
We can.
I move that we table this ordinance.
Second. Until when?
To when?
To when?
Till the next
The
Quorum Court meeting.
Next Quorum Court meeting. Okay.
Second.
There's no.
All right, so we got a motion to table by J.P. Roush, a second by J.P. Devins.
There's no discussion.
All in favors? Those opposed? Okay. Item 15, J.P. Ussery.
Thank you very much, Judge. This is one of those things that got caught in the moving more money from one line item to another than our ordinance. We have an ordinance that calls out exactly the limits on that, and she did not realize that she went over the limit. She came and she talked to us about this, and and so I moved that this be. Number one, will you read it, please?
This is not an ordinance, just a voice vote motion.
Okay. All right, and so I move that this be approved as stated right here.
Motion by J.P. Ussery to move the line item transfer from Judge Zimmerman, seconded by J.P. Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, J.P. Ussery, item 16.
Okay, and this is exactly the same thing. Judge Beaumont came and she didn't realize that there were limits on what she could move from one line to another. We talked about in finance, and we're satisfied that the requirement's been met and it will in the future, which is the main thing.
Okay.
So I move that this be passed as written.
Motion by J.P. Ussery, second by J.P. Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Item 17, J.P. Ussery.
Okay, would you read this for us, please, Mr. Lancer?
An ordinance reducing $200,500 from the unappropriated reserves in the court costs and fines fund budget 5800 for 2018 and appropriating said $200,500 to the other professional services line items in the building and grounds budget for 2018.
Okay, thank you very much. And this is moving money, excess money from bonds, a bond payment that we have set aside for that, and moving it to the building and grounds in order to take care of the courtroom that we built upstairs. And so I make a motion that this be passed as written.
He read it. Motion by J.P. Ussery, seconded by J.P. Ecke. Discussion. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. As I stated in committee, I feel like this court costs and fines budget is pledged to pay off bonds. And to my mind, there's not an excess there until the bonds are paid. Secondly, this late in the year, I don't know how buildings and grounds can spend $200,000 plus in 6 weeks. Either there's some things they haven't been doing that they should have been doing, or, I mean, there's no explanation for it. I just wondered if they had too much money in their budget to begin with, so I'm voting no. Thank you.
Any other discussion? J.P. Bowman.
Yeah. I think this was the bond issue that I was confused about before. I went and talked to our comptroller today and to our treasurer. I found out that there's $180,000 set aside to pay that bond off, and that's permanently set aside. There's a $374,000 in reserve to cover this bond, and there's $849,000 in the treasurer's accounts. So that's almost enough to pay off the full amount of the bond. There's 40 years left, and this is enough to pay at least 3 years of that bond. So the matter of transferring out of that fund into this one, and it is completely legal because I got a copy of the state guidelines on this sometime back and shared that with the court. And so this is a total legal transfer, and there's plenty of money in that bond fund to take care of this issue. Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion? Public comments? Any public comments? Ms. Patty?
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Roush.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
No.
Sue Madison. Joe Patterson. Oh, I guess he's gone.
I'm going to have 10. It's only 9, so we're going to have to move it on.
To the next.
I have to go to a second reading.
Well, motion to move to suspend the rules and go to second. J.P. Bowman, seconded by J.P. Dennis. All in favor? Those opposed?
No.
Ms. Patty?
I have to have 10 to suspend the rules, so I'll have to go to a second reading next time.
10. Well, we're gonna do a. We don't have 10. Okay. All right. So we'll move that one on. Item number 18. J.P. Ussery.
An ordinance anticipating additional revenue of $10,000 in the Law Enforcement Grant Fund for 2018 and appropriating $10,000 from the Law Enforcement Grant Fund to the ADR grant budget for 2018.
And Sheriff, can you clue us in on exactly what this is? You or Jay or somebody?
This is an Arkansas Dispute Resolution Grant. It really doesn't have to go through the sheriff.
Oh, it doesn't have anything to do with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. That shows. Anyway. All right.
This is to pay. It's a fund that we get that the courts get to administer to pay for mediators in court cases to try to get them to settle cases and thus not clog up the system.
All right, so I move that this be passed as read.
Second.
A motion by J.P. Ussery, second by J.P. Madison. All in favor? Those opposed?
We've got a voice vote.
That was roll call. No, I mean in discussion. Any other discussion on this one before we go to public comments? Discussion, public comments. Ms. Patty.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Eckey.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to the second one next month.
No, that passed.
Is that only one?
He only has to have 10.
Oh, it was a 10. Got it. Item 19, J.P. Ussery. 19.
Can you read this for us, please, Mr. Lester?
Yes, sir. An ordinance anticipating revenues of $76,000 in the Arkansas Heritage Preservation Program Grant Fund and appropriating $76,000 to various line items in the AHPP budget for 2018.
And I move that this be passed as read.
Second.
Motion by J.P. Ussery, second by J.P. Harbison. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any public comments? Any public comments? Ms. Patty, do the roll.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Eckey.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
All right, item 20, J.P. Ussery.
Okay. Can you read this for us, please, Brian?
An ordinance anticipating additional revenues of $827,951 in the DEM Grant Fund and appropriating the amount of $827,951 from the DEM Grant Fund to various Homeland Security budgets for 2018.
And I move that this be passed as read.
Second.
Motion by J.P. Ussery, second by J.P. Devins. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Any public comments? Ms. Patty?
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Eckey.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
All right, J.P. Ussery, item 21.
Can you read this for us, please, Mr. Lester?
An ordinance anticipating an additional $150,000 in the Rural Community Grant Fund and appropriating $150,000 from the Rural Community Grant Fund to the Bridges and Steel line item in the Parker Branch Road Bridge Mitigation Project for 2018.
I move that this be passed as read.
J.P. Ussery with a motion as seconded by J.P. Bowman. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Any public comments? Ms. Patty?
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Item 23, J.P. Ussery.
Thank you very much.
22, I'm sorry.
Will you read this, please, Mr. Lester?
An ordinance anticipating additional revenues of $325,000 in the Drug Court Grant Fund and appropriating the amount of $325,000 from the Drug Court Grant Fund to the SAMHSA 2018-2019 grant budget for 2018.
This is, we get this thing, I think we get it about every year. And it's a wonderful grant that helps the drug court. And so I move that this be passed as read.
Second.
Motion by J.P. Ussery, seconded by J.P. Pond. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Public comments? Ms. Patty?
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
J.P. Ussery, item 23.
Thank you. Will you read this, please, Brian? Mr. Lester?
An ordinance anticipating an additional $929,999.82 in the Brush Creek Road Bridge Fund of the FEMA Grant Fund and appropriating $929,999.82 from unappropriated reserves of the road fund to the following line items, to various line items in the road department budget for 2018.
I move that this be passed as read.
Second.
Motion by J.P. Ussery, seconded by J.P. Harbison. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any public comments? Public comments? Ms. Patty?
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Item 24, J.P. Ussery.
Will you read this, please, Brian? Mr. Lester?
An ordinance recognizing additional revenue of $330,000 in the road fund and transferring $330,000 from the road fund to the FEMA fund and appropriating $330,000 to the 2018 FEMA 2017 flood budget for 2018.
And as you can see, it takes quite some time for FEMA to get around to paying us, and that's why we've got the reserve. So I move this be passed as read.
Second.
Motion by J.P. Ussery, seconded by J.P. Pond. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Public comments. Ms. Patty?
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Item 25, J.P. Ussery.
Could you read this, please, Mr. Lester?
An ordinance recognizing additional revenues of $19,676 and appropriating additional revenues of $19,676 in the general fund sheriff work release.
And I move this be passed as read.
Motion by J.P. Ussery, second by J.P. Bowman. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Public comments. Ms. Patty?
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Rouse.
Yes.
Bill Ussery.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Item 26, J.P. Ussery.
Will you please read this, Mr. Lester?
An ordinance to change the titles of personnel positions in the sheriff and jail budgets for 2018, appropriating the amount of $4,720.56 from the general fund to the sheriff enforcement budget for 2018, and appropriating the amount of $541.25 from the jail fund to the sheriff jail budget for 2018.
So this is some restructuring in the that the sheriff is doing to more accurately describe who does what job. So I move this be passed as read.
Motion by J.P. Usry, seconded by J.P. Bowman. Any discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Public comments. Ms. Patty.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Fred Roush.
Yes.
Bill Usry.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Alicia Devins.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Colleen Briney.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
All right, I think we did 27 and 28. Committee reports. J.P. Bowman.
No meetings, no agendas.
One more time.
No meetings.
No agenda.
Okay. J.P. Dennis.
I'd say we didn't any taxpayer money on
Meetings. All right.
I
JP.
spent all the money on personnel. No. The Personnel Committee meeting did meet, and we went over the title changes that Judge Zimmerman was asking for, along with the lengthy title changes and grade increases for the Sheriff's Department. That's it.
J.P. Usry.
The Finance and Budget Committee did meet. We talked about the budget at length, and we also talked about increasing the millage. We saw it tonight while we worked on all week. There's one comment I would like to make, and that is that it's quite apparent that the grants administrator has been very busy. There are a lot of grants on here. We are very appreciative for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Other business. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually have 3 items, so bear with me. The first is, I believe at our last budget meeting, we had the issue of discussion on the daily fees to charge to the cities for inmates at the jail to be put on our December agenda. And Mayor Jordan told me today that his last council meeting will be on the Tuesday before our Thursday quorum court meeting. So he won't have the opportunity to do anything about this jail fee unless he calls some kind of emergency meeting, which seems to me to be very late in the year to be planning something like that. So I would like to make a motion that we move that to the January agenda so that all the municipalities have a chance to consider it. Why would that be inappropriate? Because, I mean, we don't know if all the mayors are even aware of it yet. I mean, I hope they read the newspaper or watch TV, but depending on when their councils meet, and many of them have set their millage, are deep into approving their budgets, and to come along with, for the city of Fayetteville, that would be $2.6 million extra dollars.
So I don't think you can add an actionable item under other business without amending the agenda. It'd be like trying to add an ordinance without amending the agenda because you're asking for a vote in the group to act on something. And I think you have to amend the agenda in order to do that. I don't think you can just bring up new business in other business.
So I should amend the December agenda by deleting it? That doesn't give the mayors any comfort in knowing how to deal with their agenda. I mean, we moved it to fairly late in the year, and it's going to impact every city in the county. If they arrest anybody, perhaps there's some cities that don't arrest.
Let me see what J.P. Usry.
Thank you very much. In light of the fact that we did pass the millage increase tonight, and I was going to discuss this in our next meeting, but that is, I think that the cities need to be aware that we will charge them, but I think we can buy some time with this and maybe have it be effective 2020, and that's what my suggestion is going to be at the next meeting.
I think we can make a motion in other business since it's a simple motion. So there's no prohibition on that. We don't have to. We make motions all the time that aren't on the agenda. So that's proper procedure. We've done it. And I recall a time when J.P. Bowman made a motion to disband our committees in other business, and I think we were reminded of that for a long time. But we did it.
I'm a little confused. I don't think this is a city council meeting. I think this is a Washington County Quorum Court meeting. And in my opinion, that's the only rule of business that we should be attending to. I don't have any control over what Fayetteville or Tawnytown or Springdale does with their city council meetings, and to inconvenience this court just for them, this is Washington County Quorum Court. Their business is their business, our business is our business. And I think it just needs to stay that way. And I am not going to bow down to city council when this is a Quorum Court meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, the Fayetteville mayor was in a meeting last Tuesday night, and I talked to a committee member from Springdale today. The judge and I think Mr. Gales have already met with Tawnytown and Farmington. Anybody else? And talked about this with some ideas about helping take care of this deficit we've got with the jail. So this is not a surprise to these people. And the thing of it is, the Fayetteville mayor said he thought it was going to cost $2.5 million. The sheriff shared information with us that based on his projections for actual days in jail, that the total for all cities would be like $1.2 million. So this is not something that's going to be catastrophic. I've talked to the county judge about this, and he has another idea that I think would be very easy to implement that will minimize their cost and smooth out this whole transition. So there's a number of proposals out there that are being discussed that I think will help move this thing on through, and there's some time to continue to talk to those people, even though we hadn't finalized on something, to get an agreement from them before their final budgets take place. So I think we need to continue to pursue that thought process and go to these people and see if we can't reach an agreement with them, because they know what the situation is. Thank you, sir.
I had a discussion with the mayor of Elkins about this issue, and I think he was about to go into a meeting with you, if I'm not mistaken. And I've also had conversations with two of the Elkins court clerks about this whole issue. It's not like they've not been informed. And I almost kind of feel like we got some kind of a stall going here, but I don't know that. It just kind of seems maybe like it. Thank you.
J.P. Madison has a motion on the floor. It's been seconded by J.P. Madison. The motion is to delay to
until January, the discussion on the daily charge for inmates at the prison, because of the timing of various cities' council meetings. Fayetteville is going to meet the Tuesday in December before we meet on the Thursday. So if we pass this and tell them they have to start paying it January 1st, they won't have a chance to change their budget.
And it's Christmas.
Okay. I'd like to make an amendment to it. I'd like to amend that we change it to $62 a day and go back to the original thought that we had and drop the 32. So that would be my amendment.
Point of
We're going to
order.
do new business.
That is out of order because that's amending the ordinance.
So we have a motion on the floor. Got a second. We're going to do an all in favor.
Nobody cares about Fayetteville. Everybody about the cities.
All opposed?
No.
Okay.
Okay, can I
That's
go on
your
with
second
my
one.
other?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I read in the response to J.P. Eva Madison's comments on page 3 about a trip to Hawaii for buildings and grounds supervisor. And just to clarify, I got an email from somebody that said they had heard that Mr. Gonzalez was going to some training related to buildings and grounds in Hawaii, and this person was asking me to look into it. So after a meeting, I asked the judge about it, and he said he didn't know anything about it, that he'd never heard of such a trip. But yet, in this response, he says that he canceled the trip because of pushback from me. And I didn't offer any pushback. I was just trying to find out if it was accurate. So would you
So, and
please
just
correct that?
at the point in time you asked me, I did not know because I don't know all the interests. So, but I went and asked my building and grounds and chief of staff what's going on. There's a trip, and that's what the response is. There was a trip. The seminar or the training and development cost the same everywhere. The cost of the tickets to go to Hawaii was less than going. But after your comment, I think they went ahead and said, well, let's take it off the board. So because the optics would be that if you're going on a training development trip in Hawaii, it seems like it's more. So now they're going to Houston where it's going to cost more because the tickets. So that's what that was. Okay. At the point in time you asked, I did not know.
I understand,
okay.
But my point is, I didn't ask that the trip be canceled.
No.
If I'd been asked, I would have said take the cheapest trip. But okay. You made that decision. What I'm trying to say is without any pushback from me, because I didn't. After that, I thought, well, my person that emailed me was mistaken. I assumed there'd never been any such trip. The other item is about the change in our video recording that's, I think, we recently found out about. Where does one go to see those videos? Because I've been trying to find the most recent meetings of the Finance Committee on the Fayetteville government website, and they're not posted there. So now that the county's IT people have taken over the...
No, will be.
Oh, they haven't done it yet?
No, that's what we're going to be doing come January.
Come January, okay. So why aren't our meetings posted yet? I need to ask Fayetteville.
They say with committee meetings, they can take up to 2 months to get them on there. That's kind of what their policy is. So whenever...
Well, I hope we can beat that record.
I think we will.
2 months.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other business? J.P. Madison.
Just one follow-up. Will the meeting still be televised?
Live.
It'll be live streamed.
Televised?
I don't think it'll be televised.
We don't own the government channel, so we can't put it on there.
Right.
I think there may be an ordinance that requires that.
There can't be an ordinance that requires it, because to require that would require the county judge to enter into a contract with somebody. The Quorum Court cannot pass an ordinance that requires an elected official to enter into a contract.
With all due respect, Mr. Lester, I'm not asking for your input. I'm asking the county judge about whether the meetings will be televised.
With all due respect, I'm informing the county judge of the answer that he should give you.
Okay. So your question?
I'm concerned that there was an ordinance enacted at some point that required our meetings to be televised. Didn't require you to enter into a contract, but I think it required that our meetings be televised. I think it was a long time ago, because our meetings have been televised. The Quorum Court meetings have been televised for a very long time. So.
Okay. We'll check into that. J.P. Fine.
Best I recall, what our ordinance did, what our ordinance did was appropriate money so that it could be televised. I don't think we ordered anybody to televise it. But you can look it up. It's going to be in the record in the minutes. Thank you.
J.P. Harbison.
When is our next Quorum Court? We'll have to have 3 meetings. This one counts, and we'll have to have another meeting scheduled because we have to have 3 meetings. In December, well, of course, we'll have a December, but do you have any ideas?
I don't.
May I?
I know.
At the December 20th meeting, I will be happy to move it on to third and final reading.
Any other business? Any other business? Final motion?
Second.
Motion adjourned. Second. County committees over.